Hokage give me a face. Bleach. Chapter 161-180. Chapter 161-failed dad. Unexpectedly, this guy looks like an honest man, but he can still make noises. Then if I don't take my life back, are you planning to not let this child eat? Yizan raised his eyebrows and looked at him. Have I misunderstood you? Misunderstanding, Zibo said with one heart. I really want to let him eat. Yizan. He's just being stubborn. Shifunjin Yushiro shook his head like a little adult. I can't listen to other people's words at all. But this kid is also amazing. He didn't eat for a whole day, and he didn't even say a word. Quote. After Kuchiki Byakuya, the second largest iceberg in the Soul World is different from Byakuya's acquired iceberg. This guy is stillborn, from a small iceberg to a big one. It should be quite good for him to be silent for a day. Relaxing. Yixin-chan, do you know Baizai? Yizan patted Zibo Yixin on the shoulder. Tell me, are you still him? What do you want to say? Zibo looked at Yizan in horror. You don't know Kuchiki Byakuya yourself. You asked me if I knew 247. Don't tell me you want to give Kuchiki a child again. When Shiba said this with all his heart, the whole person was stunned and carefully looked at Hinamori Momo and Hitsugaya Toshiro in front of him. Is she Rukia's younger sister? What is this second-hand vice captain thinking about every day? Yizan was also shocked by his brain hole that broke through the sky. Of course not. That's good. Zibo breathed a sigh of relief, and then calmed down. Captain, what's the matter with your talk these 2 days? Chan what? I'm a man, you still remember. You are stubborn, you have a flat chest, your face is stubborn, and your voice is not cute at all. If I am not blind, I will remember you as a man. Yizan turned to Byakugan. You are still a rough guy. Quote. Then can you stop being small? Chan went. Zibo said with a bitter face. I'm happy, you beat me. I won't call you if you win. 1 heart, Chan. Just the strength of Yizan who dares to compete with Yamamoto Shigekuni, and fight against him. Zibo Yixin suddenly stiffened. I remember that there are still team affairs to deal with. Captain, you just meant that I don't need to take care of this sister in the future, Weefin. Then I'm leaving. I haven't said that I want to let you go. Yizan frowned, but looking at little sister Hina Sendao who was obviously relieved and took over the feeding task on her own accord, Yizan gave up the idea of calling that guy back. Forget about feeding, let him continue to feed. Toshiro may starve to death. A generation of captains with countless fans died of starvation because they refused to eat. It's too awful. And being looked at by the pitiful little eyes of the little sister who is out of the monk's cover. Fuck, I can't say anything to let Zibo continue. Thank you, brother Yizan. Hina Sentao's movements were a little unfamiliar, but she wiped off Hitsugaya Toshiro's face fairly well. Xiaobai is not very lively, but he is not troublesome. It doesn't matter, I don't take care of it anyway, I don't mind at all. Yizan said gently. That's what he said. As an observer, Yuashiro Shifunjin just wanted to say, it's really hard to be a member of the 10th Division. Have their accommodation been arranged? Yizan asked. Hina Morita blinked, but said nothing. After a while, Shifunyuan Yushiro pointed to his nose. Big brother, what are you looking at me for? What about you? Don't understand. I understand what you said, but I'm not a member of your team, how do I know? Shifunjin Yuashiro looked surprised. Uncle Shiba who escaped just now is the one who is in charge of this. You didn't know how to follow him all day. Yizan frowned. I didn't see his arrangement, said Shifunjin Yushiro. Then just say it straight. Yizan slapped him on the head. Go, take them to the room where Rukia used to live. Isn't Rukia running out of place to live? Shifunyuan Yushiro looked at Yizan's determined expression and reminded meaningfully, she will be sad. It's only for 2 days, why does she hurt? Yizan wondered, let them move in when the next room is number 20. Quote. So that's what it is. Shifunjin Yuashiro nodded, then she shouldn't be angry. No, why do you talk about her every day? The Sifeng family wants to marry the Kuchiki family. Yizan raised his eyebrows and looked at Sifeng Yushiro. How is that possible? Sifeng Yushiro immediately exploded. I promised Rukia, I want not to tell you. This kid still has a secret with Rukia. Feeling a little unhappy, what should I do? Yizan showed a leisurely arc. Ranju. Yizan walked towards Matsumoto Ranju, who was waiting not far away. I thought you were going to stop investigating this matter. It's been half a month since I came here, and I thought she had long forgotten. Yizan looked at Matsumoto Ranju, who appeared in front of him again, and saw her gloomy expression. It seemed that this time was not going well. Silver let me not meddle. It's over. Is this the rhythm of using me as a trash can? However, it's a good thing, to solve the problem of Ranju. By the way, talk about Ichimaru Silver's bad words, show his male god charm, Matsumoto Ranju's goodwill towards himself will definitely increase. Yizan smiled slightly, and then quickly hid it. This shows that he knows that what he has done is against the rules of Jingling Court. The question now is, what do you think? Me. Matsumoto Ranju was taken aback. She just didn't know what to do, so she came to Yizan after hesitating again and again. In this matter of Ichimaru Silver, only she and Yizan were insiders. Apart from looking for Yizan, she really couldn't think of another person to discuss. I'm here to invite you to dinner, I agreed before. Matsumoto Ranju said, but I can only afford the izakaya in Liushin Street. No matter where it is, as long as it is an invitation from Ranju, I will gladly go to the appointment. Yizan looked at Matsumoto Ranju with a smile. Chapter 162 to be forced. Although I don't plan to let Matsumoto Ranju really spend money on myself, Yizan still thinks that as a gentleman, the date should be chosen by the girl. Besides, if I was invited to dinner by Matsumoto Ranju, would I be jealous of others if I said it out? Not to mention how many times the role of Luanju has been banned. Even in Junyang, there have never been many people who have a crush on her. With the character of the chrysanthemum, he will definitely drink when he eats, and when he drinks, he will. Izakaya. Drunk. I'd Renki Matsumoto raised the bottle. Silver is so bad. Never knew what he was thinking. Yes, what you said is reasonable. Yizan perfectly acted as the trash can of the soul. Did he echo the words of the pumping chrysanthemum and scolded Ichimaru Silver a few words. I always see his back. Matsumoto Ranju suddenly came up to Yizan. Tell me, why is he not like you? Ah. Is this an obscure compliment? Yizan looked at the big dumpling that suddenly jumped up in front of him, only to feel that his heart was beating a little faster. Miss Luanju, you know that you are fierce, so you should save your clothes. How can you wear such a serious school uniform in Waji Lushang? If you're like this, I'll just... Yizan turned his head and looked around and pretended to be drinking and chatting, but in fact he was secretly observing their death gods and sighed helplessly. Under the watchful eyes of the public, just want to do something, it is also difficult. Picking up a girl is one thing, if you wear something like, the captain of the 10th division gets drunk while talking about a girl. Who cares if it's because the girl student is wearing revealing clothes and keeps rubbing in front of her? Although Yizan didn't care about being told that, but he was afraid that other girls would not know the truth and detour to him from now on, which would be too wrong. Matsumoto classmate. Yizan's face was straight, and he moved back. Pay attention to the image. I just said you're better than Silver, you've started to do this. Matsumoto Ranju raised his head and took a sip of wine, then put down the bottle heavily. Do I look good? Yizan nodded decisively. Speak. Yizan replied fluently. It looks good. Does it look good? That said, what should those eavesdroppers think? Yizan thought for a while, then nodded. Yes, you were right. Then why don't you kiss me? As soon as these words came out, the people who were eavesdropping couldn't hold back any longer, and the choked coughs came one after another. Kissing, what? This is what a girl who is still in school should say. In front of the public, in front of everyone's eyes. It's so enthusiastic. However, the target is Yizan, the captain of the 10th Division. They are not incomprehensible. Whoever let him enter Mao killed an Achukas in just a few months, and then, with lightning speed, became the long-vacant 10th Division captain, and the 13th Division captain Yamamoto of Gote, the disciple of Chonguo, also had a fight with the commander-in-chief, and it was said that there was no winner or loser. It is understandable to be confessed by a woman like this. People who are completely misunderstood think so. Ranju, you are drunk. Yizan really wanted to do something under everyone's attention, so you absolutely can't do it. Otherwise, who would she be? He sighed helplessly, mourning for his loss of this great opportunity. In the next instant, soft lips pressed against him. Yizan. I must be dreaming. He thought so. Otherwise how could this happen? Matsumoto Ranju, who I thought was the most difficult to conquer, actually posted it on his own initiative. Is this kind of thing reasonable? This must be unreasonable. I can only say that drunkenness is a mistake. In order not to be misunderstood, when Matsumoto Ranju wakes up, Yizan enjoyed Matsumoto Ranju's lips for a while, and then pushed her righteously away. And touched her, by the way. As for where to touch, he's not stupid, he touches wherever he takes advantage. Ranju, you are drunk, Yizan said with a straight face. I can't see it. Matsumoto Ranju looked at Yizan with hazy eyes, I thought. Before she could say why, she slammed onto the table. Everyone who was waiting for the good show let out a disappointed sigh. If you are disappointed with wool, I will be disappointed, okay. I thought she was going to pounce on me and kiss me once. I knew I should have been shocked for a few more minutes. Big mistakes in life. Mao. Then she will be taken care of by you, Yizan said to Matsumoto Ranju's roommate. I will take good care of her, Captain Yizan can rest assured. The short-haired girl patted her heart and assured. After he left, Matsumoto Ranju, who had been pretending to be drunk, opened his eyes and covered his lips silently. Chu Wen was actually sent out like this by yourself. Was pushed away. Is my charm so bad? Matsumoto Ranju was extremely lost. Silver didn't talk to himself who grew up with him if he had something to do. Now he took the initiative to kiss the man who said he loved him, but that guy dared to push him away. Ranju, what's wrong with you? Matsumoto Ranju's roommate, a girl named Benchumazi, looked at her worriedly. It's okay. Matsumoto Ranju shook his head. You don't look like you're fine at all. The expression on your face just now was so terrifying. Is there really no discomfort at all? No, Matsumoto Ranju shook his head. Then you drink some water, tell me immediately if you feel uncomfortable, and I will take you to the school doctor's office. Asako Benchu handed Matsumoto Ranju a cup of hot tea, and then asked with bright eyes, then. Why is it 10 today? Did the squad leader take you back? I've had a hard time thinking about this. Can you just forget about it? Matsumoto Ranju burst into tears and regretted his impulsive behavior after he was drunk. Can I refuse to answer this question? Ranju, the short-haired girl shook her hand. Simply put, it's me and him going out for drinks, getting drunk, and then he's sending me back. That's it. At first, Mazi showed a skeptical expression, obviously not believing their simple words. Otherwise, Matsumoto Ranju asked rhetorically. Like why you were drunk, what happened after you got drunk? That sort of thing. No, nothing you imagined happened, Matsumoto Ranki said decisively. Chapter 163_not clear. The next day, everyone's pointing made Matsumoto Ranju's decisiveness, and was ridiculed by the original Asako. Nothing happened. Primordial Asako raised her eyebrows and looked at Ranju Matsumoto. Then what did I hear? The female student of the True Central was drunk and kissed the captain of the 10th Division. Strong kiss. I'm drunk, I don't remember it. Matsumoto Ranju said in a panic. What can a drunk person remember? I remember that you weren't drunk when you arrived at the dormitory last night. Originally, Mazi had an expression of, "You're a liar, very sober, you can lie to me." He said decisively, "Nothing happened. But the guy who brought you back just forcibly kissed it. Nothing happened. It was just an accident." Matsumoto Ranju covered his face. "I knew you would say this, so nothing happened. Although you didn't tell me, I still know. Besides, now the whole school, no, the whole jingling court knows about this." Benchu Mazi said with a wicked smile. "Also, I have to tell you a piece of unfortunate news. The relationship between the third-year Ryoko Baida and the captain of the 10th Division, Yi-zan, is not an ordinary one." "What?" Matsumoto Ranju raised his eyebrows. "The first day Yi-zan went to school in Junyang, they knew each other." Mazi Benchu said, "Then how do you say she is Jungong?" "In short, I think she will find her soon." Just as Benchu Mazi had guessed, Hayakuta Ryoko came over during the lunch break. "Yi-zan told me that he only met you on business," Ryoko Baida said. "As far as I know, Matsumoto Senpai has been inseparable with Ichimaru Silver before. Maybe she likes him." Matsumoto Ranju nodded, as he said, "It's just business. I recognized the wrong person yesterday." As for whether it was the wrong person, Matsumoto Ranju knew very well that Yi-zan was what he saw at the time. However, it was to prove his charm. In fact, it still failed. "That's good." Baiti and Ryoko gave a sigh of relief and looked at Matsumoto Ranju. Liangzi. Yi-zan looked at Baishin Liangzi helplessly, and swore to the sky, "I pushed her away at that time." "So what?" Ryoko Baida said displeased. "I know you are excellent, and I try to make myself better, but there are so many people who like you. Today you pushed Matsumoto Ranju away, and tomorrow you will be there again. Someone else. Or she's kissing you once, will you push it away?" "Of course it has to. It depends on the occasion." Yi-zan touched his nose, "But so far, the only woman I've ever kissed is you, Ryoko." "Really?" Baiti and Ryoko looked at Yi-zan in surprise. Her mood was obviously much better. "Of course, I won't lie to you either." Yi-zan said affirmatively. "Look, as soon as I heard the news of last night's news, I immediately asked you to explain it. Doesn't this explain my intention? In my heart, you are very important." Baiti and Ryoko was naturally persuaded by Yi-zan. Hey, Kuchiki Rukia looked at the girl in front of her in shock. She looked a little younger than herself, but she was actually about the same age. Asanjing Renji and Hitsugaya Toshiro stared into small eyes. One was Yuhi Mao, the other was Bai Mao, the other was cold and didn't say a word for 8 days, and the other was so irritable that he would jump up if he provokes a few words. Two extremes. This is the child that Yi-zan brought back from Liuhun Street. Kuchiki Rukia looked at Shifunjin Yuashiro. "Why didn't you tell me?" "What's there to say?" Shifunyuan Yushiro shook his head. "I originally wanted to tell you when Boss Yi-zan asked them to live in your room first, but later I found out that it was only for a few days, and I moved out after cleaning the empty room. It's over. It seems that there is no need to say it. I didn't say it. Anyway, you will see it when you come back from the holiday." That said, but I'm not prepared at all. "What do you need to prepare? It's just 2 more playmates." Shifunjin Yushiro said. "I have to say, Momoko is more like a girl than you." Kuchiki Rukia. "Renji, stop staring at Xiaobai, he won't pay attention to you." Shifunjin Yuashiro continued to turn his head and said, "I will definitely ignore you." "What are you talking about? What do you mean he doesn't care about me?" Asanjing Renji waited for the child with hanging eyes, who was much younger than him. This look is so unpleasant. Uncle Yixin once wanted to feed Xiaobai, and Xiaobai looked at him with this look all day, from morning to afternoon. Asanjing Renji frowned. "Really? If you don't believe me, give it a try," said Shifunjin Yuashiro. "Frog jumping 10 times if you lose. 20 strokes is fine." Asanjing Renji looked at Hitsugaya Toshiro eagerly. An hour later. "Let's jump." Yushiro Shikazu clapped his hands, signaling Asanjing Renji to start quickly. "It's so stupid. Kuchiki Rukia looked at Renji Asanjing, who once again pitted her with disdain. It seems that the previous lessons were not profound enough. Rukia, is it really okay for you to fall into trouble like this? Asanjing Renji's originally fierce-looking face now looks a little pitiful, but it is not worthy of sympathy. Sympathy is for the truly poor. As for you, Kuchiki Rukia shook her head, hurry up and dance. We're all watching. Asane Renji. 0.3. So cruel. Do you have? Look at other people's childhood sweethearts. Asanjing Renji pointed at Hinamori Dao and Hitsugaya Toshiro. Why have you never helped me? Because you're too stupid, Kuchiki Rukia said indifferently, and then turned around to see Yizan. Her eyes suddenly lit up. I feel like I've been hurt. Seeing Rukia, who had abandoned her childhood sweetheart and ran to Yizan without hesitation, Renji Asanjing felt a chill in her heart. She's discriminatory, don't you think? Asane Renji looked at Shifenjin Yushiro. But what responded to him was a ruthless urging. Are you still dancing? Chapter 164-embarrassment. Yizan, who had just returned from outside, reached out his hand to catch Kuchiki Rukia, who was rushing towards him, and asked, what's wrong with Renji? He doesn't believe that Toshiro can ignore people all the time, bet with Yushiro and lose. It doesn't seem to have a long memory. Yizan shook his head. Why are you so stupid? Kuchiki Rukia nodded in agreement, and with a glance from the corner of his eye, he saw Hinamori Dao also coming over, waiting eagerly, feeling a sense of crisis. How familiar is this look? Kuchiki Rukia grabbed Yizan's sleeve. Brother Yizan. Huh. Yizan, who was about to say something, was interrupted by Kuchiki Rukia after seeing the look in the eyes of Hinamori, looking at her suspiciously. I don't know about some ghost questions. I want to ask you. Kuchiki Rukia said, pulling Yizan and leaving. Let's talk about it now, I'm afraid I'll forget it later. Your sister took the notes. Yi Xuanyi said. I just thought of it. Kuchiki Rukia said. All right then. Yizan nodded. Although he still didn't understand why Rukia suddenly acted like this, Yizan was dragged away by her since 30. He didn't see it, and Rukia, who was pulling him away, turned back furtively and gave Hinamori Dao a proud and provocative look. Women are really scary. Shifenjin Yushiro shook his head with emotion. However, compared to women, the elder brother who flirts with them is more scary. What is a person muttering about there? Asked Asanjing Renji, who had jumped back in a circle. What's the matter? It's nothing, it's so stupid anyway. I just said you don't understand, so let's not tell you, lest you have to use your tiny brain capacity to think about this issue. Asanjing Renji was in a hurry, and when he turned his head, he saw Hitsugaya Toshiro standing not far from Hinamori Dao with a cold face. How can such a big kid still be fed? Why is it big? Are you big? Shifenjin Yushiro turned over Byakugan. Besides, that's what the big brother is trying to do with his heart. You don't understand this. How did you get me into it? Just that stunted brain. It's strange to understand. You cry bag, why are your words becoming more and more unpleasant? Asanjing Renji was furious. Do you want to fight? Come on, you idiot. Yushiro Shifenjin hooked his fingers provocatively. Fool Yuzeg said such a thing. Asanjing Renji asked in return, and then drew out his bamboo sword. Rukia, you said there is a ghost problem, it's just an excuse, right? Yizan looked at Kuchiki Rukia clearly. Why did you try to pull me away just now? Because. Kuchiki Rukia thought she was covering up well, but she didn't expect to be discovered, so she couldn't speak. Yizan looked at her lightly. In the eyes of brother Yizan, which one is better between me and young Sendao? After a long silence, Rukia Kuchiki finally spoke out what had been tangled in her heart for a long time. What kind of problem is this? The eldest child comes home and finds that there are 2 more people in the family, so he is not happy. Jealous. Yizan never expected Kuchiki Rukia to ask such a question and remained silent for a while. Why are you writing this question? If you want to ask, just ask. Kuchiki Rukia said as a matter of course, me and Hinamori, who do you think is better? Miss Rukia, I will misunderstand you when you say something like this. Misunderstanding what? For example, I misunderstood that you are possessive. Yizan raised his eyebrows. Being a child, get along well with friends, don't care about things like Buin, you know. Why do you avoid talking about it? Yizan. Can't answer. Kuchiki Rukia raised her eyebrows. Or do you think I don't have the pitiful eyes of Hina Morita, and I'm not cute enough? Yizan. So in your eyes, you like her more. Miss Kuchiki, your brain hole is a little big. Yizan said with a bitter face. I just rescued the two brothers and sisters, and when they had nowhere to go, I brought them back. What do you like or dislike? I also brought me back because my elder sister wanted to find me, and just because you were short of eldest brother's wedding present. There is nothing to like or dislike. Is that so? I'll go. Why is this girl so sharp today? Is it okay for me to wear it? If you must have an answer, Yizan said with a straight face, I like you the most. It would have been better if I said no sooner. Kuchiki Rukia smiled smugly. Yizan. Never would have thought that a man like Laozi would be forced by his sister to the point where he could not speak. I said earlier that I don't have to pretend that I don't know those problems. Rukia stood up suddenly. Okay, I'm going to go to Yushiro and the others to play. Yi Xuanzhang looked at her in awe. It was a waste of me to think seriously about how to answer her question. I never expected that the final answer would be this. 213. Miss Rukia, walk slowly. Yizan shook his head amusingly. Wait, I have another question. Again, Yizan looked at Rukia Kuchiki in surprise. Please tell me. Well, there are rumors in the school that you were raped. Kuchiki Rukia asked hesitantly, really? Yizan's whole person froze again. What's wrong with Sister Rukia? She always asks this kind of question. If I hadn't watched her grow up, I would have thought she was interested in me. That thing. Yizan didn't know how to answer. It seems to be the case. I have it. I don't have it. What does it mean? Kuchiki Rukia stared at him. I heard that she is a woman with big waves, a very good figure, and a very beautiful woman. Yes. Yizan felt that he was about to commit embarrassment after being forced to ask such a question by a little brat. Why are you asking this like a poor child? Go and play with your gang of friends. Why are you so fierce? Kuchiki Rukia showed a look of grievance. I just wanted to ask what type of girl you like. Chapter 165 Rukia's interrogation. Type. This is complicated. Yizan frowned. I can't tell. There's nothing to say about this. Kuchiki Rukia looked suspicious. Don't lie to me. For example, someone who is gentle and generous, has a particularly good figure, is pitiful, and makes people want to protect. Is there a genre you like? Do you have to pick one? Yizan looked at Rukia with a funny look, but I think I like each one. Rukia. Captain, how can you bully girls? Ziba said with a frown. Rukia is about to cry. Is there? Yizan raised his eyebrows and looked at Rukia, only to see her shaking her head vigorously. Obviously not. Zibo glanced at Rukia with hateful eyes. Captain, as long as he's a woman, there's nothing he doesn't like. If you ask him what type he likes, of course he won't be able to answer. Is that so? Kuchiki Rukia sighed with emotion. Is there anything you hate? Actually, I don't like your sister and your octopus head. Yizan secretly said. But can this be said? Of course it's impossible. He shook his head silently, and then a figure flashed in his mind. If it must be counted, the woman in Yi counts as one. Eldest sister Yi. Rukia was surprised. The eldest lady of the Saifengyuan family. She knows and should come back to hunt you down. What are you afraid of? She can't beat me anyway. Yizan said with concern. Okay, Kuchiki Rukia Zhaoni, have you finished your questions? It's almost. Kuchiki Rukia nodded reservedly. Don't worry, I will definitely not become like the eldest sister Yi. After she left, Yizan scratched his hair. What's the use of reassuring me that I'm coming? Captain, are you such an innocent and pure person? Zibo Yixin gave you a funny and stupid expression, and only exchanged for a Byakugan from Yizan. Why don't you say innocence? Yizan sneered, do you think I really don't know what that little girl means? Isn't it just interesting to me, and secretive? I'm not blind. Even if she didn't find out at first, she asked so many bewildering questions, and it was impossible for her to ask her sister. Of course, she asked for herself. What else can't you understand? Likes, dislikes. Do you want to be what I like? This little girl's idea is really interesting. However, she is also Captain Kuchiki's younger sister. If you play with other people's feelings or something. Zibo Yixin hinted at Yizan strongly, Captain, you can take it easy. I haven't done anything yet. Yizan silently looked at Zibo Yixin, who looked particularly wretched and winked. Can you stop making such a foolish expression? Seeing your expression makes me want to hit people. Did you know? When I liked it, you called me Xiaoyixin, Yixin-chan, and now you despise me. Zibo held his heart in a pretentious manner, with a look of sadness and despair. Sorry, you made a mistake. Yizan chuckled, I've always hated it, from the moment you became the vice captain. Zibo fell on the table with a smack. Okay, don't show off your tiring acting skills. Work hard, Yizan said angrily. I feel like I've been hurt. Zibo Yixin said with an unrequited expression, I am such a hard-working vice captain, I was actually disliked. 1. You are not a woman. 2. You are very second. Do you think these 2 reasons are sufficient? Yizan sighed, you should thank me for taking you in. Zibo Yixin has been beaten to the point of doubting his life, lying on the table looking like he has died. Fake dead and pretend to be dead, don't let the work go. Yizan Byakugan looked at him, otherwise I won't be polite. Captain, have you ever been polite to me? Zibo smiled bitterly. You can also choose to try a more rude way. Yizan said. Zibo Yixin. ... There were only a few days of Mao's vacation in total, and Higashi was still waiting at Kuchiki's house, and Dad's waiting. Of course, Rukia couldn't stay in the 10th division all the time, and was quickly called back by Kuchiki Byakuya. Before Mao's holiday, the 10th division only had 3 children, Hinamori Momo, Hitsugaya Toshiro, and Shifunjin Yushiro. Hitsugaya Toshiro is only a child who can say a few words neatly and is usually very cold, so after a long period of accumulation, the relationship between Sifungin Yushiro and Hinamori Dao is still very close. Yesterday, were those 2 people rescued by Big Brother Yizan just like me and Xiaobai? Hina Sentao asked in a low voice while Asanjing Renji was no more. Isn't it? Shifunjin Yushiro shook his head. Rukia is the young lady of the Kuchiki family. As far as I know, it was Brother Baizai who asked Brother Yizan to go to Liuhun Street to find it. Anyway, the situation is very complicated. The one Kuchiki came to look for Rukia yesterday was Byakuya-san, the captain of the 6th division. The loss in Hina Moritao's eyes flashed for a moment. It turned out to be the eldest lady of a noble family, and her brother was the captain. No wonder she can be so public. Yushiro and the boy with Yuhi hair are also very good to her. Even eldest brother Yizan was called away by her casually. But that Renji guy was a piggyback, he was brought back with Rukia, and he stayed here forever. Shifunjin Yushiro curled his lips in disgust, the whole person is the same as his Yuhi hair. Disgusting, very annoying, grumpy, and always saying things that make people want to beat him. Well, my brain is not very good, and I'll be fooled by just a few words. Hinamori Dao nodded understandingly. Yesterday he insisted on teasing Xiaobai, but Shishiro said that the big brother was all, and he himself raised 10 frog jumps to 20, and in the end he lost the bet. Just don't know what to say. Rukia is Miss Kuchiki, why are you still here during the holidays? Although she left before dinner, it still made people feel very concerned. It's like something that belongs to you will be taken away. Chapter 166-Jealous. When Hinamori Dao remembered how Rukia went to check the room where she and Xiaobai stayed yesterday, she felt uncomfortable. Then why don't you ask? Because she likes to stick to Big Brother Yizan. Shifenjin Yushiro shook his head and sighed. If Big Brother Byakuya strictly asked her to stay at Kuchiki's house at night, she would be able to stay here forever. It turns out to be like this. Hina Sendao nodded knowingly, but a sense of crisis arose in her heart. After a moment of silence, Hinamori Dao said, I feel like Miss Rukia doesn't like me very much. Ah, this. Shifenjin Yushiro felt that he couldn't refute, because Hinamori Dao's feeling was completely correct. Judging from Rukia's performance yesterday, she really did not like Taozi. What should this be called? Same-sex repulsion. I think I don't like that kid like Leonji either. Shifenjin Yushiro made a reflection. She's probably just not used to it, said Shifenjin Yushiro. When I came back from the room, I found that there were many people in the family, so I must be a little bit unaccustomed to it. This 370 is not her family, isn't she the lady of Kuchiki's family? Hina Sendao said inexplicably. Why do I seem to hear a little sour? Is it jealousy? Shifenjin Yushiro frowned. Because she likes sticking to Big Brother Yizan. Shifenjin Yushiro said again. Hina Sendao was silent for a moment, and then she said, she has a big brother herself, and she is still attached to Big Brother Yizan. It's a matter of personal preference, said Shifenyuan Yushiro Zhang with a sense of spirit. It's over, Momoko and Rukia are in a situation of incompatibility. What did they do when they quarrel? Brother Yizan, isn't this called the blue-faced calamity? The female players in the squad were also able to chat for a long time for the sake of Big Brother Yizan and who to talk to. The world of women, I really can't understand it at all. Because Kuchiki Rukia and Hinamori Momo had already realized that they would fight, when they started fighting, Shifenjin Yushiro was not surprised at all, but the dazed Sanjing Renji was stupid and didn't understand at all. What happened? Naive and stupid. Yizan had a girl hanging on one arm, and the one who called, Brother Yizan, on the left and, Brother Yizan, on the right only felt that his head was getting bigger. What's going on here? Yizan looked at Rukia and Shifenjin Yushiro helplessly. Are you two competing? No, Rukia said firmly. Hinamori then shook her head. There's really a tacit understanding. Yizan said with emotion, trying to pull out his hand. It failed. The two girls hugged their arms even tighter. Yizan looked at them with a headache. What do you want? He asked helplessly. The two of you have such a tacit understanding, so just unify your thoughts. Yizan had just finished the captain's meeting, but he was held by the two girls as soon as he entered the door. This meeting still didn't understand what was going on. One said he wanted to learn white play, and the other said he wanted to accompany her to practice kendo. Not immediately. This is very embarrassing. After all, this is not a Hokage world, there is no such thing as Shadow Clone. Even if it did, Shadow Clone wouldn't be able to teach two people to hit and return at the same time. After all, I'm only one person, and I don't have twin brothers, so you can't cut me in half. Yizan laboriously pulled out his hand from the arms of the two. Didn't Big Brother Yizan say he likes me the most? Kuchiki Rukia glanced at Hinamori, then listen to me. Brother Yizan. Hearing her words, Shindao's expression froze, and hurriedly reminded Yizan of his existence. I really want to learn to fight for nothing. You haven't learned the bait, do you still need Brother Yizan to teach you? Just find Yuashiro. Kuchiki Rukia sneered. Brother Yizan, are you right? Don't look for me. Renji always said that he is better than me in vain, look for him. Shifenjin Yuashiro waved his hands again and again, determined not to let himself be dragged into such a terrible situation. Aren't you still boasting that you are a very powerful ghost? Although Renji Asanjing lost his eyes, he still had the intuition to seek good luck and avoid evil. This meeting was not right, and Shifenjin Yuashiro pushed himself away. Come out, make a decisive decision, and drag him back into the water without hesitation. In this regard, Shifenjin Yuashiro expressed his shock. I'm going, what are you talking nonsense about? Sifenyuan Yuashiro frowned. I'm definitely not as good as Big Brother Yizan. Compared with my eldest brother Yizan, that's far behind. Asanjing Renji said. This kid actually went out with a brain today. He glanced at him in shock, and then said, I suddenly remembered that there is still something to do at home, so I will go first. Seeing this, Asanjing Renji immediately said, I'm going to practice. He wanted to say it was a no-brainer, but when he thought of what he said, Yizan might throw trouble for himself. As for why he looked at people so much today, it was because Rukia had been waiting for him. Stare at every chance, as long as it's not a negative IQ number, it's understandable. Yizan looked at the backs of Saifunyuan Yushiro and Asanjing Renji fleeing, and asked the heavens speechlessly. So, what is the use of these two stinky boys? Eat and drink for free for so long, run faster than anyone else when encountering something. While Yizan despised them in his heart, he also found an excuse to run away. The captain's meeting just now was discussing the disappearance of the soul of Liuhun Street. In short, you should discuss the result first. There is no time recently, only teach the same. Quote. He said so, and naturally the two girls could no longer entangle, and they both released their hands after looking at each other. Yizan sighed in his heart, turned and left calmly. Not to mention, this kind of feeling is like escaping from life, and people almost move to tears. It feels good to be surrounded by girls, but the girls are jealous and ask themselves which side they are on. It's so embarrassing, it's almost like choosing a phobia, right? Chapter 167 _ share the same hatred. Just two little girls, so they learn to be jealous. It's Matsumoto Ranki and Hayakuta Ryoko, so they don't get jealous like they do they? Besides, I never hooked up with them. Yizan sighed helplessly. Is my charm so great? Captain Wu Shi, who passed by holding the document, saw Yizan and nodded. Yizan waved his hand at will. ... Who are you? Young Sentao looked at the person who came to the door and said he was looking for Yizan. It's Shino's 6th grade senpai. Kuchiki Rukia recognized at a glance this woman with a big golden wave and a sexy body. The good-hearted Hina Momo introduced Matsumoto Ranki senpai. Rumor has it the one who forcibly kissed brother Yizan. Even though they were still arguing over what to do with Yi Xuanzhao today, they had every reason to be wary of such a strong enemy. At least they are not yet developed, no one is stronger than the other, and they can compete fairly. Forced kiss, Hinamori Dao exclaimed, and then looked at Matsumoto Ranju, and immediately understood what Kuchiki Rukia meant. This is a formidable enemy, they must join forces. Ah, Matsumoto Ranju didn't expect that someone remembered what happened so long ago, and covered his face weakly. That I can explain. What to explain? Hina Sentao snorted coldly. Actually, you didn't kiss brother Yizan forcibly. This time, Matsumoto Ranju was speechless. The forced kiss, of course, happened. I was drunk at the time. Don't care about drunk people. Everyone said that you have a crush on brother Yizan, and you usually don't dare to say so you took the longest opportunity to kiss him. Kuchiki Rukia looked at Matsumoto Ranju vigilantly. If not, why are you here? Aren't girls as good as you now? Matsumoto Ranju looked at the two girls who were blocking the door with a headache, and made it clear that he didn't intend to let him in. I'm looking for Yizan for a business purpose. Confession. Kuchiki Rukia raised an eyebrow. Maybe it's also a love letter. Hina Sendao said. What's the difference between that and a confession? Matsumoto Ranju listened to the two of them talking like no one else, and only felt that the whole person was not well. Hey, two little girls, who are you from Yizan? After saying this, Matsumoto Ranju simply dropped his polite look and returned to his true nature. Originally, it was because she was officially the first time to be the team of the 13th division, so she was polite. Since no one gave face, Matsumoto Ranju would not have wronged herself for this. Besides, I was looking for Yizan for a serious business, and if I don't believe it, I have to misinterpret it. Then just say it according to your meaning. Matsumoto Ranju thought like this, and continued to say, yes, that's what you think. I'm here to find Yizan, but I'm not looking for him to confess. What's the specific thing? Why should I tell you? Yi Shuank, you have never been mentioned to me. As a person who has been admired by countless people since childhood, and inexplicably hated by many girls, Matsumoto Ranju is very sarcastic when it comes to girls' exclusion and sarcasm, not to mention Kuchiki Rukia and Hinamori Momo are young and have not learned sarcasm at all. The essence of human beings, those few words that Matsumoto Ranju said were like a joke. Inexperienced girl. Matsumoto Ranju deliberately hooked his lips, showing a disdainful smile. Sure enough, I saw their angry expressions. It was so funny. Hina Sentao was speechless. Said he was Yizan's adopted sister. Isn't that there is no reason to drive her away? But in fact, she can't even stand as a sister, because Yizan just took them with him because he and Xiaobai have no relatives, which is very pitiful. Just come back to take care of it. He takes care of us. Of course we are obliged not to let him be hooked up with strange, bad women who don't look like good people. Ever since he was adopted by Kuchiki's family, he has faced Kuchiki Byakuya's cold face of -500 degrees every day. Rukia's ability to withstand pressure has skyrocketed. No matter how arrogant Matsumoto's stance is, it's not enough to look at compared to Kuchiki Byakuya's big iceberg that can freeze 90% of the population of Jingling Garden. Strange, a bad woman who doesn't want to be a good person at first glance. Ranju Matsumoto looked at Rukia Kuchiki in disbelief. Why don't I look like a good person? Kuchiki Rukia glanced at her and said indifferently, from head to toe. This time, Hinamori Momo completely abandoned the grudge against Rukia Kuchiki just now, and desperately nodded in agreement. Matsumoto Ranju looked at the two of them, and then laughed. Isn't the underdeveloped little sister jealous? Who would be jealous of you? Kuchiki Rukia turned Byakugan. Obviously I heard that Matsumoto Ranju came to find me, but the left and right did not come, so I came out to see, and since then I have seen 3 women fighting each other. To be precise, this is 1 woman and 2 girls. Rukia, Xiaotao, Luanju, what are you doing? Yizan helplessly interrupted their conversation. Don't you see a group of boring people peeking around? Not long ago, Rukia and Hinamori Momo were still arguing, but in a blink of an eye. Seeing Yizan coming, Matsumoto Ranju gave Kuchiki Rukia and Hinamori Dao a smug look. I have something to do with you. These 2 girls insisted that I was a bad woman and wouldn't let me in. Does this sound like a complaint? Yi Xuanzhang thought to himself, and then felt helpless. This thing is difficult to do. In the end, he decided to stick with the mud. Rukia, Xiaodao, how can you keep the guests out of the door? Yizan said lightly, then looked at Matsumoto Ranju. Since there is something to do, come here first. What's the point of teasing 2 children? Kuchiki Rukia and Hinamori Momo, known as the 2 children, looked at each other and saw the loss in each other's eyes. As for Matsumoto Ranju, who was described as teasing children, she coughed awkwardly and followed Yizan. Chapter 168_Keep Fooling. Ichimaru Silver again. Yizan looked at Matsumoto Ranju with no surprise. I know anyway, you're coming to me because it must be his business. Matsumoto Ranju nodded a little embarrassedly. It's really his business. I know it's not good to keep bothering you, but I'm really worried. Can you understand this feeling? Absolutely not. Yizan said silently in his heart, but what he said was another matter. Ranju's business is my business, he said, and then managed to get a grateful look from Matsumoto Ranju. The ghost that I used to check his whereabouts seems to have been discovered, and I haven't felt anything recently. Matsumoto Ranju said, I'm afraid he is still going on with that. Of course, what Matsumoto Ranju said was about collecting souls with the aptitude of the god of death in Ryahun Street. Yizan nodded without any surprise. Aizen's collapsing jade has not yet been built, and of course there are still a lot of souls needed, and it is impossible for Ichimaru Silver to stop. I remember that when you were at Hina Sentao's house, you went after Ichimaru Silver. What was the result? Yizan asked. Young Sendao. Matsumoto Ranju looked at Yizan suspiciously, and then recalled. That day, Ichimaru Silver wanted to kill 2 children, so it was her. Knowing the identity of Hinamori Dao, Matsumoto Ranju felt that he was a little unable to face her. Compared to Hinamori Dao's identity, I remember that when you asked me for a drink, you said that Ichimaru Silver told you to leave him alone. Then how could I not care? Renku Matsumoto said, I can't just watch him make a salvageable mistake. A touching friendship. Yizan clapped his hands calmly. Then what are you going to do now? Of course. Matsumoto Ranju was speechless. What is it? Yizan raised his eyebrows. What do you think? Matsumoto Ranju looked at Yizan for help. I really can't think of it. I'm going. The relationship is unable to think of a way, so come to me to discuss. I don't know whether to move her to trust me so much, or to be angry that every time she comes to me, it's because of other men. The path you choose, you have to finish it when you cry. Yizan complained silently in his heart, and then said, personally, I think you should leave him alone. Matsumoto Ranju obviously didn't like hearing this, and looked at Yizan with displeased eyes. Don't worry. Yizan waved his hand, let me analyze it for you first. Reassuring Matsumoto Ranju, Yizan continued, first of all, you have to know that as far as Ichimaru Silver's actions are concerned, even if he stops immediately and leaves it to the 46th Central Office for judgment, every 1,800 years will be I can't get out. When the old man Yamamoto had a meeting this morning, he also said that the soul of Liuhun Street began to disappear again, and he was preparing for an investigation. If you think about it, it has reached the level of being discovered by Jingling Court. This matter is definitely not a small thing. Quote. That's also not necessarily all made by silver. Matsumoto Renku said. If he did it all, I'm afraid the verdict will not be 1800 years, but 1 or 2 eternals. Yizan chuckled, however, I still advise you to leave him alone. Anyway, that guy is shrewd and won't easily exposed. Why are you so sure? Matsumoto Ranju was stunned by Yizan's remarks. How could he let himself not pursue it when he knew that Ichimaru Silver did such a treacherous thing? Of course, it was because Aizen in the original book felt that Soul World couldn't display his revenge, so he exposed himself. By the way, although Aizen is my younger brother, I am now an innocent captain who guards justice. It seems unreasonable to ask Matsumoto Ranju not to pursue him. Gotta come back around. Persuasion is obviously useless. You can either choose to send him to the nest of maggots now, or you can do nothing, and that's it. The forces behind him are not as simple as you think. You mean, even you can't fight it? Matsumoto Ranju looked panicked. You said earlier that Silver's involvement in the captain's mutiny was also done by the forces behind him. Really smart. Yizan nodded approvingly. After all, the other party is in the dark, and we are in the light. Ichimaru Silver is just helping others, and he doesn't know too much. If he is caught, he will be shocked by the grass, and he will not know much. There are other help. Matsumoto Ranki was persuaded by him, but he still did not give up his hope of saving Ichimaru Silver. Is there really no way to help Silver? Even if it is sentenced to 100 or 200 years, it doesn't matter. Or do you convince him to provide some inside information? Yizan said lightly, but being a spy is very dangerous, and you will be killed if you are found. Matsumoto Ranju left in despair. When he went out, he saw Hina Momo who was whispering to Rukia Kuchiki, and he felt that he couldn't face it. He didn't even pause. He turned around and walked away from them. It's so fast. Hinamori Dao gaped at the back of Matsumoto Ranju. That's called shunpo. After a period of mutual hatred, Kuchiki Rukia and Hinamori Momo's relationship developed by leaps and bounds, and it was a world of difference from their dislike of each other at the beginning. At this moment, seeing Hinamori Dao being surprised by the speed at which Matsumoto Ranju quickly left, she kindly explained it. It turned out to be shunpo. Young Sendao nodded, but wasn't she arrogant just now? Why didn't she dare to look at us when she was walking? Then how do I know? Kuchiki Rukia shrugged. Perhaps he was taught a lesson by Brother Yizan. How is that possible? Hinamori shook her head. Shouldn't you be angry after a lesson? Glancing at us, or apologizing or something, how could it be possible that you didn't dare to look at us and ran away? This is unreasonable. Listen to what you said, it's really unreasonable. Kuchiki Rukia nodded in agreement. Even if she kissed Brother Yizan forcibly again, she should show it off, not run away. This Taudu, just it's like doing something that's sorry for us. Chapter 169 _ the best posture to take the blame. What's going on with them? Shiffingen Yuashiro looked at the two very friendly people in confusion. I remember, they were still arguing yesterday. How do I know? Asane Renji shrugged. Anyway, they were like this when I saw them. Women's world, I don't understand. Shiffingen Yushiro sighed. I thought I had to run today to avoid the war. I'm too embarrassed to say that. I despise you, Asanjing Renji said angrily. You don't even know what happened after that, how dare you say that you didn't run away? Shifunyuan Yuashiro looked at him with contempt. Don't tell me, you were quite clever yesterday, and it just refreshed my understanding of your IQ. What are you two mumbling about? Kuchiki Rukia looked over impatiently. Didn't you say you want to teach Shoudao Kendo? Asanjing Renji walked over silently and picked up the bamboo sword. No, Lu 30 Kia, didn't you fight with Shoudao for Brother Yizan yesterday? Yushiro of Saifunyuan still felt that he couldn't accept it, so he couldn't help but ask. That was yesterday, and I was not familiar with Shoudao at that time. Kuchiki Rukia's face was taken for granted. Familiar. So fast. Shiffingen Yuashiro sighed with some speechless emotion. I still remember the first time I saw you. You were still in tears, and when I thought of my sister, tears fell down. Boy, boy, boy. Kuchiki Rukia patted Shiffingen Yushiro. At that time, I was actually suspicious. You were the younger sister of the eldest sister Yi, and for some strange reason you disguised yourself as a man. I didn't expect that you were really, boy, child. So boys cry too. When the monk heard what Kuchiki Rukia said, he looked at Shiffingen Yushiro curiously. ... If you want to say that among the 13 divisions of Jingling Court, the 10th division is very lively. Jingle Chunshui looked at the group of children not far away with emotion. I feel that the young people in the entire Jingling Court are either in Junyang or with you. If my little Shishu had not grown up, I would have asked her to you too. Yeah, I actually thought about it. Yizan nodded calmly. Jingle Chunshui looked at him in surprise. I'm going to hang a sign at the entrance of the 10th division with the words, Jinglingting Nursery, written on it. What do you think? That sounds a bit self-defeating. Shiro Yukitaki shook his head with a smile. Now it's rumored that the captain of the real team especially likes children. How embarrassing. Yizan sighed. Actually, it was forced on me by others. Girls don't matter. I'm particularly annoying as men. It sounds really resentful. Jingle Chunshui took out a big wine jar from nowhere. Why don't you come and have a drink to relieve your boredom? Kingle, we're here for business. Shiro Yukitaki looked helplessly at Jingle Chunshui. Can we talk about the drinking later? Then just wait. Jingle Chunshui put the wine jar aside. Yizan, we are here to investigate the disappearance of souls in Liuhun Street. I heard that your two children were rescued by you. Yeah, Yizan nodded. I was dating someone at the time, and I happened to hear the movement, so I saved them. Do you know who it is? If you know, I will arrest people. You can see that I didn't arrest them. I don't know. Yizan shook his head. When I rescued these two children and went after those people, that person would have long since rescued them. I ran away. Luan Ju, who was with me, caught up, but her strength was incomparable to the opponent, so she was dumped. Any other clues? Even if there is, I can't say it. Yizan frowned. No, they didn't leave any traces. They even wore masks. They never fought, and I don't know how strong they are. But if I make a move, I won't let them run away. Yizan's confident appearance made Jingle Chunshui and Yukitaki Shiruro speechless for a while. Sometimes I'm just curious, where did your self-confidence come from? Jingle Chunchui shook his head and sighed, then put the jug on the table. Come on, the business is done, drink and drink. Of course you have to have strength to be confident. Yizan smiled. What clues have been found in this matter? After all, I have 2 victims here, and I am still very concerned about this matter. Although I don't think Aizen's work will leave any clues. Even if there is, his Kyoka Suzuki is enough to solve the problem. However, as the real mastermind behind the scenes, he should still be concerned about it. Where the disappearance of the soul happened, there are traces left by the temporary crossing gate. Jingle Chunchui said before Yukitake Shuru stopped, so old man Yamamoto handed this matter to me and Yukitake to investigate. Let others step in. I'll go, Aizen is dark enough. Kazuki Urahara has already taken the blame for him. 1 is not enough, and another 223 should be deducted. Black, it's so dark. Yizan shook his head with emotion, expressing his position intentionally. I believe it will not be them. So you should leave this matter alone. Yukitake Shuru said quickly. The teacher also thinks that you have a good relationship with Yi and the others, which may affect your judgment. Is Lisa still the former adjutant of Uncle Jingle, so he won't be influenced by judgment? Yizan Hurricane's acting skills, showing a dissatisfied appearance. In fact, he was very happy. Without waiting for Jingle Chunchui and Shuru to speak, Yizan said immediately, however, fortunately old man Yamamoto didn't let me investigate this matter, otherwise I would be embarrassed now. Ha ha ha. Yizan said this with sincerity. If old man Yamamoto really asked him to investigate this matter, what would he do? Put the black pot on Urahara Kazuki's group of people. I feel so sorry for Lisa and Yaiki. But it's impossible to expose the blue dye. So, fortunately. Thanks to old man Yamamoto for not letting me investigate this matter, otherwise I would be embarrassed. Indeed, all the evidence now points to them. Jingle Chunchui sighed. You are not embarrassed, I am a little embarrassed. Chapter 170 _ Who is suspected? It's really sympathetic. Yizan said this, but he didn't have any expression of the same period, but a look of schadenfreude on his face. Come on, I don't need you to gloat over misfortune. Jingle Chunchui raised his glass freely. Cheers. Okay, cheers. It is said that talking about things at the wine table is easy to succeed. But Yizan can't believe it. Jingle Chunchui and Yukitake Shuru went to the 10th division just to ask such a little thing. If he wants to ask, he can ask at the previous captain meeting. And brought a jar of wine on purpose. Clearly, it's the real business to say when drinking. What will you ask? Could it be that I'm also a suspect? So how wrong am I? Obviously he didn't do anything, but that guy Aizen was doing it. As a result, that guy Aizen was not suspected, but I was suspected. After 3 rounds of drinking, Jingle Chunchui finally said what he wanted to say. Yizan, if Kazuki Urahara did this, they would definitely have an inner response in the Soul Society. This matter. Before he could finish his words, Yizan already understood what he meant. It just means that he once let go of Kazuki Urahara, and now he is the most suspicious person. By the way, it is possible to know where Kazuki Urahara and the others are in this world. They must have come to ask about Kazuki Urahara's whereabouts in this world. This is really embarrassing. Yizan shook his head and sighed. Even if he didn't say it, it was impossible for Bai Zai's younger brother not to say it. However, if they were to meet Kazuki Urahara, wouldn't that guy tell Aizen? It's so confusing. Do you think I'm an inner responder? Yizan said to him left and right, only holding on to the words of Jingle Chunchui. What we are doing now is reverse derivation. Assuming that the perpetrator is Kazuki Urahara, then he must have an inner soul in the soul realm, so he can enter and exit the soul realm without being discovered, and he can also sort out the traces of the gate. Yukitake Shuru said, in fact, we don't want to think so, but everyone has doubts, and we will not let anyone go. If you say that, old man Yamamoto is also suspicious. What? Shiro Yukitake looked at Yizan in surprise. The trial for the group of defected captains was too harsh, and it only took one day to set the trial result. Yizan slightly raised his mouth. Don't you feel too anxious? In a hurry. Shiro Yukitaki's face was serious. How do you view the judgment of the 46th Central Office? Don't be angry, don't be angry. Yizan waved his hand. You said just now that you want to reverse the derivation, and I will reverse the derivation. For example, why is the old man Yamamoto so strong? Why did the old man Yamamoto become an old radish after living for thousands of years? Is the head still that strong? Because teacher, he has been diligent in exercising since he was young. Jingle Chunshui was obviously misled by Yizan. However, since Yamamoto Shigekuni established the 13th chapter of the guardianship, he has always been the same as he is now, and has not changed for more than 1,000 years. Then can we assume that, in fact, the previous captains of the 12th Division are all researching anti-aging drugs for him? Having said that, Yizan glanced at the expressions of the two and saw that they were both in a state of sluggishness, so he calmly continued to flicker. Otherwise, there is no way to explain why he made Niyuli, who came out of the nest of maggots, to be the captain of the 12th Division. So this time he is also researching this thing, but the research leader has changed and became Nirvana. Cocoon Lee. After Yizan said this, Jingle Chunshui and Yukitaki Shiruro looked at each other, and both saw the shock in each other's eyes. Your idea is just very creative, Jingle Chunshui said with emotion. No, I am also very concerned about this matter. Yizan said contentedly. Of course, saying that old man Yamamoto is the mastermind is just to prove that your so-called reverse derivation makes people speechless. According to your inference, everyone in the entire Soul Society is suspect. What you said also makes sense. Shiro Yukitaki nodded, obviously confirming what Yizan said. This is even half the success of cheating. Yizan snickered in his heart and continued, although the words I just said were just casual words. But there is one person who is very suspicious, and that person is Niyuli. Let's not say how crazy he is. If he is a person who is not a member of Urahara, he is said to be an old subordinate of Urahara Kazuki. Just based on this, is it not enough to make people suspicious? Is it true that he is completely unaware of Urahara Kazuki's experiments? Even if he knew about it, so what? Shiro Yukitaki frowned, although the depression on his face could not be concealed. He came to Yizan for evidence and wanted to investigate something, but as a result, there were more and more suspects. No one would be happy when this happens. People who do research are more or less eccentric. You should have no objection to this. Yizan raised his eyebrows slightly, assuming that Kazuki Urahara really did that kind of experiment. Would he find the experiment in the 12th Division? For the record, want to relive the ex-captain's experiment? If not. No, so what? Jingle Chunshui asked suspiciously. If not, maybe he is doing the experiment himself. Can't figure it out. Yizan shook his head. What do you mean, you suspect Niyuli? Shiro Yukitaki looked at Yizan in surprise. What's wrong with suspecting him? Yizan smiled. A mad scientist who can even use himself to do experiments, do you think he will use others to do experiments? That kid also demolished my virtual night palace. Damn it, if I don't give him any trouble, how can I face the subordinates of the old and young in the virtual circle, and the girls who will become beautiful women after breaking their faces? Urahara Kazuki, after all, was permanently exiled to the world. If he was caught in the Soul Society, he could kill him immediately. The others, except for Yaiki, were sentenced to death. They must act in the world. Be careful, you will come to the Soul Realm to find death. Quote. Having said that, Yizan shook his head slightly, looking at Jingle Chunshui and Yukitaki Shiru's eyes as if he were looking at two idiots. Chapter 171-seriously, 2/5. To say that Yi did this. Whether you believe it or not, I don't believe it anyway. It's unrealistic for her to take away so many souls by herself. It can be seen that other people do this. It's more likely, Yizan said, and drank the wine that Jingle Chunshui handed over. In my opinion, Yuli has every reason to do this, even if according to the previous regulations of the 46th room of the central office. The judgment is correct. It was Hirako Mako and others who took the initiative to participate in Urahara Kazuki's experiment in order to gain strength. The experiment initially failed, so that they were all blurred, but in the end they succeeded. Success. Shiro Yukitaki looked puzzled. What does success mean? That is to say, although they are virtual, they still maintain their reason and emotions. There are no virtual holes in their bodies. Except for the masks on their faces, everything else is the same. So that's how it is. Shuru, Liang Ran nodded, so you still saw him after helping them leave. I go. Unexpectedly, this guy Yukitaki Shuru is usually a sick child, but his brain is actually quite flexible. I said it was actually discovered when I was kidnapped before, do you believe it? Yizan said helplessly. Then do you believe it yourself? Shiro Yukitaki turned to Byakugan. If you ask me whether you believe it or not, doesn't that mean you don't believe it yourself? Can you speak well? What about Yukitaki Shuru, who is very soft and easy to talk? The person in front of me is Yukitaki Shiruro's twin, or Yukitaki Shiruro or Yukitaki Jujiro, right? Even turning over Byakugan. Okay. Yizan showed a helpless expression. Actually, this old man Yamamoto should know. I encountered a sudden on the way to the virtual circle, and I ran into this world by accident. Then I met Lisa and the others, and they took them to Urahara Kazuki. That's when I loved you. Without a mask, Yuzuhua can't see that they have this ability tilde. As a man, don't talk about it. Shiro Yukitaki sighed. No wonder the teacher asked us to investigate you, but you are very suspicious. Hey, what are you talking about? Dare I say so much just now, but it's all in vain. Seeing the sinners in the Soul Society, but not arresting them, you still speak for them now. Shiruro Yukitaki's face was full of anger, as if he was inviting a teacher to ask for guilt. Fuju handsome guy, before that, do we have to consider a question? For example, the other party has. I'll do the math. The captains are Hirako Mako, Liuch Kenshi, Aikawa Luowu, Fengchao Lujiro, Urahara Kazuki, Sifenjin Yaiki. Vice captains are Hiyori Saraki, Riza Yahomaru, Q Nanbai. There is also a vice chief priest Hirota Akita. 1, 2, 3. Yo, there are 10 people in total. Yizan sneered. Do you think I can beat 10 people by myself? I can't resist those 4 girls, okay. Yeah, as soon as the 4 girls use their beauty tricks, you only have to lie down and let them push. Jingle Chunchui said coolly. That tone. Yizan really didn't know whether he was a little envious, jealous or very jealous. No, I have to correct this. That guy from Sifanyuan Yaiki is a man, Saraki Hajiri. Ha. Yizan laughed twice. I'm like the kind of person who doesn't want to eat even a little girl. Man. It's really hard to say. Jingle Chunchui winked with a smile. I heard that there was a real beauty who came looking for you not long ago, but was stopped by your 2 little sisters lowly. Yizan lost his color. As a captain, it's better to be serious. Why do you wish this kind of 8 trigrams? I've always been serious, young man. Jingle Chunchui shook his head. Shuru Yukitaki silently looked at Yizan and Jingle Chunchui, who were beginning to distort the topic, and coughed twice. Jingle, don't forget what we are here for. Am I here for a drink? Jingle Chunchui said with a shocked expression. By the way, let's investigate the disappearance of the soul in Liuhun Street. Shiruro Yukitaki. Anyway, in my opinion, the one who is most likely to do this is Niyuli. Yizan said decisively. Not everyone who engages in scientific research loves the soul world like Kazuki does. In order to cause trouble for Nimayuri, Yizan praised Kazuki Urahara without any pressure. They like to do things that go beyond their predecessors. As a former subordinate of Kazuki Urahara, there shouldn't be any incomprehensible things for Nimayuri to surpass the former captain, right? That makes sense. Jingle Chunchui stroked the stubble on his chin. After all, he was released from the maggot's nest, or Urahara Kazuki requested to be released. Old man Yamamoto will make him a 12. The squad leader, I don't understand. King Raku. Shiro Yukitaki interrupted him in dissatisfaction. Fuju, we are investigating the case. Of course, we must list all possible places, and we must not miss any point. Shiruro Yukitaki. In the end, I'm the most innocent, and I was suspected by you for no reason. Yizan sighed, it's really sad. It's not inexplicable at all, right? Jingle Chunshui and Yukitaki Shiruro said in unison. It's really a tacit understanding. Yizan looked at them speechlessly, then shook his head lightly. Uncle Jingle is still Lisa Yahomaru's former boss, and he used to watch me being kidnapped and beaten away by them. Do not come out to stop it. Quote. Don't say that you are so innocent. How dare you say that you are being held hostage when you run so fast? Jingle Chunshui looked at Yizan with contempt. Uncle, why don't you show up too much? Hide aside and think I didn't see it. Enough. Shiro Yukitaki interrupted them. You are both suspects. Why are you even suspecting me? Jingle Chunshui, who turned from an investigator to an under-investigator, pointed at himself in disbelief. According to this statement, is there any suspect in the entire jingling court? Chapter 172_everyone. Well, Yizan raised his eyebrows, yes. Who? Komamura Zojun, he's new here. He used to be out on assignments, so it shouldn't have anything to do with this matter, usually. The first generation captain, and the 4th division that saves the dying, of course it doesn't matter. Shiro Yukitaki nodded thoughtfully. What else? No more, Yizan said firmly. Speaking for a long time, it turns out that you are also suspected of floating bamboo. Jingle Chunshui laughed while lying on the table. No way, this matter is very wide-ranging and involves 10 captains and vice-captains. All of them are colleagues and friends. It is completely understandable to protect each other. Yizan spread his hands. Like you. Jingle Chunshui looked at him amusingly. Doesn't that also include you? Yizan turned to Byakugan. Shiro Yukitaki sighed. What you said makes sense. It's hard to investigate this matter. The 2 captains have a long way to go, come on. Seeing that Yizan finally succeeded in fooling people, he was very proud, so, why not arrest people? As long as you catch that person at the scene, yes, doesn't anyone see it at a glance? It's not that we didn't think about what you said, but every time we rush over, that person will take a step first, leaving only the traces of using the crossing gate on the spot. Jingle Chunshui said, just like Yui began to say yes, all the evidence points to Kazuki Urahara and them. Then you can also understand it this way, because some people don't want to be discovered, so they deliberately framed them. Anyway, Urahara Kazuki and the others are all in this world, and they have no way to refute them, so if they did bad things, they directly charge them, which is simple and labor-saving and convenient. Yizan said seriously. He was actually in a dilemma. He had to help Aizen to cover it up, but he couldn't let the Soul Society really seriously pursue Yazumaru Liza and the others. As a thoroughly two-faced person, the mastermind behind the scenes who cannot be exposed, the righteous side on the bright side, a good person. In addition to confusing the public, he really doesn't know how to find a balance between these 2 identities. Hard to do. It's really hard to do. It makes sense for you to say so. Shiro Yukitaki nodded. I will discuss this matter with the Commander-in-Chief. So, this is the result of your investigation. Yamamoto Shigekuni stared at his 2 disciples. Both of them agree with him. Jingle Chunshui and Yukitaki Shiruro nodded in unison. Yamamoto Shigekuni only felt that a breath was stuck in his heart. He couldn't get up, he couldn't get down, and he was depressed. So even the old man is suspected. Until the real mastermind behind the scenes is found out, everyone in the corpse soul world will be suspicious. Jingle Chunshui said calmly, including me, so the teacher will inevitably have it. Yamamoto Shigekuni waved his hand weakly. Forget it, since this matter has been handed over to you, then you can handle it properly. If you doubt it, just doubt it. I also said that if the old man has not grown old in 1,000 years, he will be suspicious. Wa and I were sealed together, and she hasn't gotten old at all, so why is there no suspicion? So, is this where Mr. Yamamoto is struggling? Jingle Chunchui and Yukitaki Shiruro looked at each other, and both saw helplessness in each other's eyes. At the same time, Yizan was also educating his younger brother, Aizen. I said, can you be more careful when you do things? Now the whole corpse and soul world is disturbed. Yizan stared at the blue-dye Yusuke with a calm face. They won't find me, Aizen said Yusuke indifferently, they will only suspect Kazuki Urahara. So they suspected me, Yizan said angrily, what kind of grudges do you and Urahara Kazuki have? They got people out of the soul world and want him to take the blame for you. Isn't it saving us a lot of trouble by letting Jingling Tae take action to catch Kazuki Urahara? Aizen said with a calm smile, besides him, is there anyone else in the Soul Society who is suitable for this matter? If you take the blame, you will take the blame. Yizan sneered, you forgot who demolished the Zai Palace. You, Aizen Yusuke said calmly. Yizan was speechless for a while, Ni Yuli, have you forgotten? If you hadn't moved Bangyu, he wouldn't have found Shuyi Palace at all. In fact, he demolished the Zai Palace. You can't refuse to admit it, and you can't blame me for what he did. Yizan solemnly stated, because he demolished my Zai Palace, so I decided to give him a good lesson. What exactly does this lesson mean? Don't frame him carelessly. Yizan patted the shoulder of Aizenwu Yusuke. I'm very optimistic about you, really. After all, you actually want to help Kazuki Urahara. You found out all this. Yizan smiled. No way, who told you to frame all my girls? You say I can just sit back and ignore this matter. Aizenwu Yusuke's face froze, and the look in Yizan's eyes was extremely complicated. He couldn't help but be uncomplicated. Anyone with lofty ambitions would be unbearable to hear such words. As far as I know, you have been very close to Matsumoto Renki recently, and you have a good relationship with Miyano Miyaki, the third seat of the 13th division. Kuchiki Rukia always runs to the 10th division, and you also took in a girl named Hina Sendao's girl as close to a girl named Hayakuta Ryoko. Aizenwu Yusuke reported all the girls with whom Yizan was close in one breath. Yizan looked at him speechlessly. You're still very good, you investigated the girls thoroughly. I just want to prevent that when I don't believe in provoking them. In the end, Yizan's stomach hangs out in person. Aizenwu Yusuke sighed, so many people can't satisfy you. Don't use that kind of words, okay? I'm sincere to them, I just like them. Yizan frowned, what do you mean? It seems like I'm very interested. Isn't it? Aizenwu Yusuke narrowed his eyes, isn't that called a flower heart? Bullshit, seeing one loves another as a flower heart, I am sincere to them. Yi Xuanchang Lan made Sister Wuyu throw a look of contempt. Chapter 173 Yuhi Yuhi Fire _ The most important point is, why do you count Kuchiki Rukia and Hinamori Momo? Am I the kind of person who doesn't even care about my esophagus? Rukia is also Byakuya's younger sister. Could it be that I can't grow up? Even Mao Zhawali dares to think about Captain Yizan. Fairy A is young and will grow up in 2 years. Lanyan Wuyuji said in a flat tone, you used to be. It's not an exaggeration at all. I talked too much, I forgot. Yizan turned to look at the scenery. Don't touch women, Lanyan Wuyuji said succinctly, if you had told me at the time, Jingling Court. No, Soul World, as long as you can see women who pass by your eyes, I will definitely not be right. Yahomaru Liza and the others shot. Do you regret it now? Yizan chuckled, it's too late. Yusuke Aizen. Anyway, I don't like Ni Yuli, so you can get some clues to him. Besides agreeing, what else can Aizen do? He nodded helplessly, yes, boss. Call me boss. Yizan looked at Aizen in surprise. This is the first time this guy has called me the boss, you are so moved. Yizan said with emotion, how much is the soul needed to be a Bengyu? Captain Yizan isn't going to take action himself because I called you boss, right? I'll go, you say so, it's strange that I'll help you. Yizan sneered, just care about the progress. If you can't even do such a thing well, what's the use of me accepting you as a little brother? Aizen was speechless before saying, it's almost there. Then you have to fight quickly. Yizan said, Old Man Yamamoto has already sent someone to investigate. If you drag it on, I will be in trouble. When Yizan said this, he sighed. After all, Lao Su is the one who maintains the balance between the Soul Society and the present world. At the same time, Siphon Yuan Yei also received news from Yizan from the Soul Realm. The soul of Ryugu Street is missing. She translated the above code and wrote it on a piece of paper, and then handed it to Kazuki Urahara. What is Aizen planning? Urahara Kazuki frowned. Do you still want to concoct what happened before? In that kind of thing, he succeeded once only because others didn't watch out. If he did it again, who would be fooled? This, Urahara Kazuki pondered. What is he trying to do to collect souls? Make Bengyu. Siphon Yuan Yi said. He found out that the ghost of death was rescued by you with Bengyu, so he became interested in this substance and wanted to make one himself. Who do you think I am? Urahara Kazuki looked at Siphon Yuan Yi helplessly. How could I use the soul of the god of death to make a jade? Otherwise. Urahara Kazuki hesitated for a long time, unable to answer. I don't know. There should be some conspiracy. Siphon Yuan frowned. Why don't I go to the Soul Society to investigate? Yizan means that the soul world is very dangerous, and all the evidences that have been investigated point to us. If you appear in the soul world, wouldn't that just confirm the suspicions of others? Urahara Kazuki categorically opposed. The most urgent task is let Hirako Mako and the others leave here first. Siphon Yuan Yei pondered for a moment, then nodded. Okay, I'll inform them immediately. Until we find evidence that Aizen planned these things, let them not come back. After all, the Soul Society should know the address here. If you want to arrest them on a whim. When you say that, I think I'm in danger too. Sefenjin Yaiki looked at Kazuki Urahara's cat eyes full of contempt. What should I do? I was exiled to the human world. It doesn't matter where I am, and you left on your own without being sentenced. Urahara Ki pushed his hat. So, it doesn't really matter what happened. Instead, how many of them won? Once they are discovered, no one will let them go. Byakuya didn't say it before, it was just luck. Quote. Did you make a mistake? Siphon Yuan Yi frowned. Byakuya didn't even know they were with us. Big sister. Anyone with brains can guess it. Urahara Kazuki sighed. Why are you talking to me so much? Instead of hurrying to inform them. Urahara Kazuki. A few blue veins popped out on the face of Sefenjin Yei, who turned into a black cat. Urahara Sansuke, how did you speak to your captain? Sorry, Yaiki-san. Urahara Kazuki bowed and apologized. Please move your steps and tell the other captains and vice captains to leave the empty city as soon as possible for the sake of safety. Siphon Yuan Yei turned a Byakugan and turned to leave. Urahara Kazuki touched his nose while holding Ling Tizai's half-smile eyes. I still have something to study, so I'm going to the laboratory. He said that, he hurriedly made a chorus, and with a bang, he grasped Ling Tejai's laughter and closed the door behind him. ... Old man Yamamoto, I knew that you would come to me sooner or later. Yizan looked at Yamamoto Shigekuni, who had a stern face. Why do you protect your face every time you see me? Why do you always do something that makes me angry? Yizan frowned. If I remember correctly, I've been really quiet, peaceful, and disciplined in the Jingling court recently, and I haven't done anything. For example, didn't you fool Jingle and Fuju? Yamamoto Shigekuni looked at Yizan with bright eyes. Then I'm just talking about things. Yizan paced the captain's office with his hands behind his back, not looking at the decorations placed against the wall. It's no wonder that he doesn't take Yamamoto Shigekuni in his eyes at all. It's just that old man Yamamoto saw him 9 times out of 10 and he was in a state of being angry and about to be angry. If he took Yamamoto Shigekuni's anger seriously. That's weird. Since they think I'm suspicious, I always have to give examples to prove my innocence. Isn't that for granted? Chapter 174 _ So, in order to prove your innocence, you said that even the old man is suspected. Yamamoto Shigekuni's beard was trembling with anger. I think it's because I was too good to you, and I never taught you a good lesson, that's why you got more and more serious. Be more presumptuous. Yes, that's what you're used to. Yizan nodded politely. Besides, you have to teach me a lesson, not to say that you can beat me, but to talk about speed. You are old, you can catch me. Yamamoto Shigekuni blew his beard and stared, as if he were burning in place. Old man, be careful, I think you have quite a lot of antiques in your house. If you burn them out, you will hit them. Yizan reminded with a smile. Yamamoto Shigekuni took a deep breath and felt that after he and Yizan finished talking, he should look for Ujiwali to see it. It's really not worth it to be angry with this kid. I won't tell you these meaningless things. Yamamoto Shigekuni took a deep breath. I'll just ask you one thing. Where is Kazuki Urahara's foothold in this world? Aren't you going to ask Baizai? Yizan raised his eyebrows. Why would I tell you? Oh, Quote. Thankfully, I already knew there would be such an event, so let them quickly move their positions. Lao Su's wit is really not just casual talk. Yizan laughed. A glint of pride flashed in his eyes. Is Baizai not telling you? Yamamoto Shigekuni's face sank again. Old man, don't do this trick. I'm completely not afraid of your face. Yizan shrugged, pulled over a chair, sat down, and put his left foot on his right. I knew you must have asked Baizai first. He didn't tell you, and then you asked me. Don't talk nonsense. Yamamoto Shigekuni slapped the table. Will you say anything, kid? It's okay to tell you this. Yizan was very calm, because he had already passed the news to Saifunyuanyaiki. In his opinion, Kazuki Urahara and others had already run away without a shadow. Then, Slack trough. The Urahara store's door is still open. Is Urahara Kazuki still in there? Didn't I get my message? Yizan looked at the sky speechlessly. Then the culprit is the investigation duo of the disappearance of the souls of the Ryahun Street following the Holy Queen, Kiraku Chunsui and Yukitaki Shuru. And the Broken Bee who insisted on following after hearing the news from nowhere. What will happen when Saifunyuan Yi meets Broken Bee? Yizan imagined the bloody scene where the master and servant who once met harmoniously fell in love with each other and shivered. Holy crap! How can I use the description of Chinsei and Ming and killing each other in love? Chinsei and your sister Ming are in love with each other. Although I always say that Yi is a man, and I also think he is a man in my heart, but this is a woman. Broken Bee is also a woman. I can say it's a wonderful master-servant relationship. Yizan shook his head slightly and gave Urahara Kazuki a sympathetic look. Can't blame me for that. You have a big heart, but I have done my best. Urahara Kazuki didn't expect that when he heard someone approaching the bell, he saw such a big surprise as soon as he came out. The leader of the Jing band, the leader of Fuju, the leader of Yizan. And Broken Bee, long time no see. He laughed dryly, and looked behind them. He was obviously relieved that he didn't see more people. It's called Captain Broken Bee. Broken Bee said coldly, and then looked at the low-rise house with the Urahara store's number plate with disgust. You actually live in such a place. The disgust in that tone obviously hit Urahara Kazuki. He held his hat awkwardly and said kindly, Captain Broken Bee. Why don't you come in and sit down, everyone? Sinners exiled in the Soul Society, do you think we are here to catch up with you? Where's Yi? Without giving any face, Schwabe fired at Kazuki Urahara, which made Yizan deeply aware of her poisonous tongue. Jealous women are scary. Yizan was calm on the face, but he was complaining in his heart. What was the attitude of Broken Bee when she saw Kazuki Urahara? To use an inappropriate, but must be very appropriate description, that is, the main room saw the mistress who kidnapped his man. Spicy eyes. Yuhi was in a trance. Will there be a big fight of the century in which the broken bee of the main house and the dissipation of Kazuki Urahara will be staged later? Yuichi-san has gone out. Urahara Kazuki obviously couldn't stand the sharp eyes of the broken bee that could stab people into a sieve, and greeted the others with his head. Everyone started without dependence, obviously not to catch me. What's the matter? It's better to go in and talk, it's not good to stand at the door. Yizan received Kazuki Urahara's look for help, and calmly turned his head away, pretending that he didn't see anything. Just kidding, how could I make the decision to make the broken bee girl unhappy for you? Even if I will enter in the end, it must not be me who opened the mouth. Urahara Kazuki looked at Yizan speechlessly. His very bright mind quickly understood the reason for what he did, and he couldn't help but give him a contemptuous look. Turning to look at Jingle Chunshui and Yukitaki Shuru, he said again, "Why don't we go in and sit?" She had invited them again and again, and of course Jingle and Yukitaki could no longer refuse, and nodded in agreement. Just before going in, Jingle Chunshui suddenly turned his head and said, "There won't be any traps here, right?" At that time, Urahara Kazuki was stiff. Yizan looked at Kazuki Urahara, who almost doubted his life, and had only deep sympathy for him. "No," Urahara Kazuki said helplessly, "how can it be possible to make a trap in the house when you hold the place where you can open the door for business? It's strange that there is business in such a shabby place." Broken Bee said disdainfully, "Yi would choose an incompetent man like you." Urahara Kazuki, who had suffered countless injuries in just 10 minutes, leaned against the wall helplessly, looking like he had been hit to the point of dying. "It's really pitiful," Yizan said coolly. "Who asked you to abduct the Lord Yi of Miss B? You totally deserve it." Huh, underscore. A cup flew out of the room. Yizan raised his hand to catch it, and put it in his assistant Urahara Ki. "Saner, why don't you go and make tea for the main room?" Chapter 175 underscore Who is the third? Saner. Urahara Kazuki looked at Yizan with a confused expression. "Why are you looking at me? It's you. Although I used to be the third seat of the first team, you don't need to call me Saner, right?" Urahara Kazuki said helplessly. "Tell me, from head to toe, where is the third?" "I'm shouting for Broken Bee." Yizan smiled. "Don't say no, it is in every sense." "What is it?" Urahara Kazuki turned over the Byakugan. "Nothing. Aren't you the third party of Broben Yi?" Yizan said with a wicked smile. Urahara Kazuki stumbled and almost didn't fall. "Why didn't you say this in front of Broby? Did you know that you kept your voice down?" Urahara Kazuki rolled his eyes at him. "Besides, even if there is a third party, it's her. Yaiki and I have been together since childhood. A relationship of acquaintance. Quote. Who cares about you?" Yizan shrugged, turned and went in directly. Urahara Kazuki. Curly white smoke rose from the teacup in front of everyone, but no one moved the teacup in front of him. Broken Bee looked out the door absent-mindedly, obviously not interested in the topic that was about to start. Urahara Kazuki looked down at the heat on the cup, as if he was thinking, although it hasn't been decided who will speak first. Huling Tejai sat without any sense of existence. His eyes were blank, either in a daze or in a trance. Yizan glanced at the group of men present, and finally set his eyes on Sufeng. In comparison, girls are much more pleasing to the eye. Urahara Kazuki, does the ghost disappearance incident in Ryahun Street have anything to do with you? After a while, Shiro Uzumaki and Chunshui Jingle finally reached a tacit agreement, and Shiroku Uzumaki spoke up. It was such a sharp question. As soon as he opened his mouth, Yizan said that he liked this straightforward posture. Urahara Kazuki obviously did not expect Shiro Yukitaki to ask such a straightforward question. Generally speaking, isn't it all about reminiscing about the past, chatting about past friendships, and playing some emotional cards? Thanks to him preparing a stomach of memories, he was actually blocked back. "I said no, do you believe it?" Urahara Kazuki smiled lightly, his eyes full of loneliness. "If you don't believe it, why ask? A person who runs away without a word has the right to say that others don't believe you." Broken Bee finally withdrew his gaze from the door, gave Kazuki Urahara a disdainful look, and sneered, "If it wasn't for another serious suspicion, why would you run away?" In my impression, the broken bees are not so sharp. Urahara Kazuki was almost speechless by the broken bees, with a constipated expression on his face. As for running away, "Miss, I am exiled, do you understand exile? What's the difference between exile without deportation and private escape? If the captain hadn't pursued it, I would have taken you back right now." As the captain of the 2nd Division currently in charge of the Qing Army, these words from the broken bee are really powerful. Yizan glanced at her appreciatively, and then said, "Bee sang, let's get down to business, that one will not be investigated, right?" Broken Bee glared at Kazuki Urahara fiercely, and gave Yizan an eye knife by the way, and then he turned his head away. Urahara Kazuki sighed, leaving, "Of course there is something I want to protect." "Like your experimental results?" Shiro Yukitake asked sharply. Yizan looked at him in shock. "I'll go, isn't this guy just a crooked and talkative person? When he went to the 13th Division to find Mayako, he also said a few words of resentment, and he couldn't see the sharp style of painting at all. Now the questioning is so real." Suddenly I felt a chill on my back. Urahara Kazuki was obviously also taken aback by what he said, and he hesitated for a long time before nodding to confirm what he said. "The result of an experiment that can't pass through Akatsuki's soul world." Shiro Yukitake didn't change his sharp style, and continued to ask. "No, it's more appropriate to ask." Because Urahara Kazuki had already been asked with a tangled face, he looked around for support. "What a pity." Yizan didn't think of any sympathy, and then calmly said after receiving Urahara Kazuki's look for help, "Uncle Urahara, you should tell them the truth. It's useless to look at me, and I don't know what you're researching. I don't dare to vouch for you. It's best to force him to tell the existence of Benyu, and by the way, see if he can find the place where he hides Benyu." Urahara Kazuki looked at Yizan with a bewildered look on his face. He never expected that at such a time when foreign aid was urgently needed, he would be abandoned by the only person on the field who could provide foreign aid. "It's no use looking at me," Yizan said lightly. "Urahara Kazuki. After all, it's just one side of your words. Although I don't want to doubt you, it's impossible for me to fully believe it, right?" Yizan moved with emotion and Akatsuki with reason. "After all, it's just you who said that, and there's no evidence whatsoever." "I see. I don't doubt you, it's all in the face of Miss Yi and Lisa." "Beauty is wrong." Jingle Chunshui shook his head with emotion. "Brother Yizan, can you not say it so straightforwardly? Quote, 1 yard is 1 yard. Yizan smiled proudly. "Don't you believe Lisa?" Jingle Chunshui was speechless. If he didn't believe it, he wouldn't have just watched and didn't come forward to stop the avatar from escaping. "Lisa has been my adjutant for hundreds of years, of course I know her well." Jingle Chunshui sighed, "But you have only known her for a year or two." "Just kidding, Lisa took me when I first entered the jingling court. Is our relationship understandable to a mortal like you?" Yizan turned to Byakugan. "Also, it's time to investigate Kazuki Urahara, don't hold me back. Captain Uzumaki has done a good job of this, and he didn't say a word of nonsense from beginning to end. A kind heart is like a donkey liver and lungs." Jingle Chunshui snorted coldly. "What's the matter? You are clearly slandering." Yizan glanced at him. "Can you not say these irrelevant things? We are here to investigate the disappearance of souls in Liuhun Street, not to say that there are no such things." Chapter 176 Master and Servant Show Affection. Yizan is right, let's not say anything else. Urahara Kazuki, what are the results of your research? You must tell us this. Shiro Yukitake said, "No matter what it is, it's dangerous corpse soul the world needs to know." Quote. Urahara Kazuki frowned, looking like he was lost in thought. As for whether he was thinking about how to tell about Benyu or how to hide it, Yizan doubted it. "I didn't expect that there are so many guests here after going out." A hoarse male voice sounded at the door. Jingle Chunshui, Yukitake Shuru and Sufeng all turned their eyes to the talking black cat. Cat demon. Jingle Chunshui looked at the black cat who could speak human words in shock. Is this the research result you want to protect? Even if you can talk, it's just a cat. Broken Bee said disdainfully, why hasn't Yi come back? Shuru Yukitaki's gaze stayed on the black cat for a moment, and after seeing it stretch out its front paws and start licking calmly, he silently turned his head. In other words, the effect of changing the sound is so good. Girl Broken Bee guessed from the cat scratches on my body that I had seen Yi, but now she didn't recognize it. Yizan looked at Yi, who was calmly licking his hair, and was speechless. Do you want to say it? Said that this cat is the cat that changed every night. Brother Yizan's face is a bit strange. Jingle Chunshui touched the stubble on his chin. It looks like he wants to say something. I'm afraid I'll blow your jaws off. Yizan looked at him and nodded. You help the table first. Yizan looked at the doubtful Jingle Chunshui and Yukitaki Shuru, and the obviously impatient Brogue shook his head and sighed. I have already reminded you, if you don't listen, you can't blame me if you fall. Actually, the male cat in front of you is Yi. Yizan added in a flat tone to Jingle Chunshui's shocked eyes. Yes, it is indeed the Siphon Yuan Yi that you understand. Yi. 1. Broken Bee pointed at the cat who spoke in a man's voice in surprise, a male cat. Rao is how she was filled with righteous indignation, how full of fighting spirit, how she wanted to defeat her when she came. I never expected that Yi, who appeared in front of her, became a man. Don't listen to his nonsense. Siphon Yuan Yi rushed over and gave Yizan 2 claws. It's just a voice-changing pill. Yizan, I don't believe it. In fact, you have always been a man disguised as a woman, right? Show your belly to us. Go away. Siphon Yuan Yi swung his paws at Yizan. The cat turns its belly to look at the male and female. It's normal. Would you like to lift its tail up and take a look? Yizan said while dodging the claws of the Siphon Yuan Yi's cold light. Snapped. How dare you be unreasonable to Lord Yi? Yizan, who was concentrating on avoiding Siphon Yuan Yi's cat's claws, was slapped by the Broken Bee and covered the center of the company. What the hell is the hatred of abandonment that we agreed to endure forever? Are you planning to defeat Yi? Did you agree to personally capture Siphon Yuan Yi and ask him to face trial tomorrow? Sister Broken Bee, is this different from what you said when you came here? Yi Xuanzhang looked at Broken Bee with a fascination. You keep saying that Yi is a sinner in Jingling Court. I remember correctly, right? What now? To protect her. Even if it's a sinner, it's not something that a commoner like you can desecrate. Broken Bee said righteously, only I am qualified to arrest her. Love and kill each other. The word crossed Yizan's mind again. What is deep love? That's what it is. Sister, are you so self-willed? Yizan covered his face. Shuanai dies quickly. Cut. Broken Bee glanced at Yizan, then looked at Siphon Yuan Yi. You change back, we will duel. No. The black cat turned his head and ran to the top of the cabinet next to him with 1 foot, and then lay down lazily. You should have come to catch us back, there is no need to fight. Broken Bee showed a disintegrating look on her face. Sister Broken Bee, calm down, calm down. Yizan quickly comforted. Don't be angry, it's not worth being angry with yourself. It's none of your business. Broken Bee pushed Yizan back in 1 sentence. Yizan said that he felt very sad. Jingle Chunshui let out a sneer at the right time. Let's continue the topic just now. What is the result of the experiment? Yizan said indifferently, the thing that makes you dare not even explain, and you have to escape directly to the world. Immediately, everyone's attention was attracted by Yizan's words. Bengyu was something that even Gurutsusai saw only once when he was treating several captains. He only heard Kazuki Urahara explain that it was a substance he discovered that contained incredible energy. As for what it was, he still didn't know. It really do not know. Siphon Yuan Yi has never even seen it before. Urahara Kazuki stared at everyone's eyes, and he was under great pressure, so he had to say, one day many years ago, I had a whim, and wanted to know what is the difference between the god of death and the god of death. and why the soul can become the god of death, and it can also become the god of death. Around this doubt, I carried out research. The process will not be described in detail. In short, I found a substance in the virtual body, and collected those substances to obtain a crystal. Then, Shiro Yukitake apparently heard something and frowned at Kazuki Urahara. Obviously, the substance he discovered played a decisive role in the captain's ether event. Then I found out that there was an incredible power in that substance, and that scared me. I found out that I had made a very scary thing. Urahara Kazuki sighed, and, no matter what I do, I can't put this things or ruined. So you just experimented with it on a whim. Shiro Yukitake frowned, so you need to collect the souls of Ryuhun Street. I didn't do anything about the disappearance of the souls in Ryugu Street. Urahara Kazuki denied. I just knew that even if I said it, you wouldn't believe me, so I didn't say it. The only thing I used for the experiment was the virtual soul. Quote. Chapter 177 cover up indigo dye. How do you explain the virtualization of Hiroko Mako and others? They were framed by others, but not me. Urahara Kazuki said, Hiroko Mako last saw the person who did it, Aizentou Yusuke. I'll go, this progress is a little bit fast. Uncle Urahara, I'm embarrassed when you tell Aizen so directly. I have to give him a round of this. Captain Aizen. Shiro Yukitake showed a shocked expression. Aizen is the current captain of the Wuhan team. This remark can constitute a slander against him. Do you have any evidence? Urahara Kazuki shook his head. I've thought a lot about your accusation of Aizen, but I always feel that this is just a one-sided remark from Hiroko Makoto. Yizan said, first of all, only Hiroko Makoto sees so many ghosts of death. Secondly, you and it is not impossible for you to use the captain and vice-captains to conduct experiments. In the end, Aizentou Yusuke was in Jingling Garden at the time, and there were many people in this area. I have seen it all, and the death gods who stayed behind in the 5th division can prove it. Quote. I saw it too, Jingle Chunshui said indifferently, so, it can't be him. Moreover, he wants to report to the 46th room of the Central Committee that Hiroko Mako took the initiative to participate in your experiment in order to gain power. You slandered it out of revenge. It's not impossible for him either. Urahara Kazuki sighed. I knew this was the case, so I had to hide. But you all overlooked a possibility. Yizan said, actually, it is also possible. What you see is not Aizen at all. Urahara Kazuki looked at Yizan in surprise. For example, if someone pretends to be him, it's not impossible. Yizan started to flicker seriously. Actually, what Urahara Kazuki and Hiroko Mako said are the truth, and Aizen is indeed innocent. He did get the news, you are doing it. An experiment, and it didn't take long for him to find that Mako Hiroko was indeed illusory. So he handed over the information obtained to the 46th room of the central government and old man Yamamoto. Is this reasonable? You mean, there are third-party forces? Urahara Kazuki frowned. If you are telling the truth, then there is only one explanation. Yizan spread his hands. I believe what Uncle Jingle said, so he said that when he saw Aizen, then Aizen was indeed in Jingling Court, but you also said that you saw Aizen. How can a person appear in two places far apart at the same time? No matter how fast he is, he can't be in Ryuhun Street all at once in such a short period of time. Jingling Court. Maybe it's his Zanpakuto ability. Urahara Kazuki was not so persuasive, even if everyone else thought Yizan's words made sense. He did not agree immediately, but raised doubts. It is entirely possible for him to use him Zanpakuto's abilities create the illusion that he is in the Silence Court. I also said a few words to him, and I'm pretty sure it's Aizentou Yusuke. Kiraku Chunsui said, Zanpakuto of the flowing water system, it's impossible to create another person, right? Uncle Jingle, you avoided a problem. There is still a possibility. Yizan raised his eyebrows and said, if you and Aizen are in the same group, this is completely feasible. You just have to lie. All right. Jingle Chunshui. Shiro Yukitake glanced at Jingle Chunshui lightly. I guess, then you have to say that everyone in the Soul Society is suspect. Those who know me, Captain Fuju. Yizan nodded. You're also suspicious if you don't say so. Jingle Chunshui turned to Byakugan. I'm really sorry. I didn't say I wasn't suspect. That's right, I'm the mastermind. Come and catch me. You stupid people. Yizan shrugged. You can give an example. Jingle Chunshui was speechless again. If it's like you said, assuming someone is pretending to be, then it's also possible that it's the leader of Aizen and Jing in disguise. Urahara Kazuki said here, silent. After all, they are people who meet often. How could such a thing happen to admit the wrong person? Such an analysis is indeed Yizan's most likely guess. However, it is impossible for Hirako Mako not to recognize his own vice-captain. This, I don't know either. Yizan loves the helpless hand. After all, I am neither the party involved nor present at the scene. By the way, have you seen Aizen? Just saw a back. You didn't even see it yourself, and you're babbling about it. Yizan turned to Byakugan. It's not impossible for Hirako Mako to lie to you. Urahara Kazuki was speechless when he was run by Yizan. That's why we escaped to this world. He said helplessly, whether it's Aizen or someone else, we can't prove our innocence, and the verdict against us in the 46th room of Central 4 has already come down. Why don't you leave the very dangerous thing you mentioned to Jingling Court for safekeeping? Shurufoizu frowned. There are so many gods of death in Jingling Court. No matter what, it's safer than keeping it alone. Jingling Court is not the safest place either. Urahara Kazuki shook his head. This time you come to me to investigate the disappearance of souls in Ryahun Street, so that doesn't explain the problem. Besides, Yi, Taizai, 3 captain level strength. If it can't be stopped in Haeung, it will be no different in Jingling Court and other places. Quote. If it's the captain of the Hudding Teacher fan who did this, and it's not as safe as the 3 of you guards in Jingling Court, Yizan said, however, it is also necessary to worry about whether you will use this thing. Do something dangerous. Although I believe in you, others may not. Captain Yamamoto didn't sentence me to death, I should have believed it. Urahara Kazuki said lightly. Yizan had ignored this point before, but now he was awakened by Kazuki Urahara's words. If Yamamoto Shigekuni completely believed Aizen's rhetoric, Urahara Kazuki, who was accused of being the mastermind, should not be spared. Dealing with the ghost of the ghost in the way of treating the ghost, but only sentence the mastermind of the ghost to exile. Chapter 178-Internal Response. Normally, this kind of thing is considered light to be sentenced to a maggot's nest for hundreds of years, and it is normal to walk through the endless hell. Now it's just a sentence of permanent exile. This guy can still have a good life. The old man Yamamoto is not so easy to fool. Yizan thought. Since Aizen's words are not fully believed, what is the situation now? Both sides don't believe it. I don't believe that I can simply and neatly sentence my old subordinate to death. Yizan felt that his understanding of the ruthless old man Yamamoto suddenly rose to a new level. Master Yi, is what he said true? When Kazuki Urahara and Shuru Yukitaki were trying to come and go, Bumblebee had heard the main point and looked expectantly at the 4 who were lounging at the top of the cabinet. Fengyuan Yei, why did you leave the Soul Realm for this? Sister Broken Bee, don't beautify Yi casually. In fact, she just eloped. Yizan sneered. You don't even think about it. Old man Yamamoto didn't care that she let Kazuki Urahara go first, and then let go of Hirako Mako and others. In fact, she doesn't need to leave at all. So she just abandoned you and eloped with Urahara Kazuki. That's right, Yizan said firmly. It's sour. Urahara Kazuki rubbed his arms across his attire. Actually, are you jealous? Jealous? Yizan raised his eyebrows. What am I so jealous of? Uncle Green Hat. Urahara Kazuki held down his hat stiffly. It's a green striped hat, not a green hat. In short, it's green. Yizan turned to Byakugan. Even if you want to be jealous, it's the jealousy of Little Bee. After all, you are the sinner who took her away. Urahara Kazuki stared at Broken Bee's sharp eyes. His whole body froze. Yaiki and I are innocent. Shuru Yukitake listened to the topic of being swayed again, and patted the table helplessly. Anyway, what you mean is that the disappearance of souls in Liuhun Street has nothing to do with you, right? Urahara Kazuki nodded quickly. I want to meet Hirako Mako and the others. Hearing this sentence, Urahara Kazuki froze. I'm afraid it won't work. Shuru Yukitake raised his eyebrows and then said, Don't worry, this time we are here just to investigate the case of missing souls in Liuhun Street. Although Yizan said that they can already control their blurring, Jingle and I still need more. Make sure. They've already left here, Urahara Kazuki said, and even here they won't see you. Leave. Shiro Yukitake obviously didn't believe it. If you leave, how will they live? I can't control this. Urahara Kazuki shook his head. They didn't tell me where to go, and I didn't ask. In short, it's no longer in the vacant city. Shuru Yukitake looked at the faces of Kazuki Urahara and Goroshi Tetsuai, and finally turned his sharp gaze to Yizan, in her response. What the hell, brother, do you want to be so sharp? It's none of my business, do you believe it? Yizan grimaced, trying to make himself look innocent. I don't believe it, Shiro Yukitake said angrily. It's too exaggerated to say that I'm an internal responder. Yizan said helplessly. At most, I just revealed a little bit, just talked about the disappearance of souls in Liuhun Street, and they have a lot of it's a big suspect. It certainly can't be considered an internal response. Tell them the news in advance and let them escape in advance. It doesn't count, so how does it count? If it was really them that caused the disappearance of the souls on Liuhun Street, then they must have known that they were suspicious, and they still use me to notify. Yizan raised his eyebrows. Of course he didn't know, so he needed to be notified. I've done it, so I don't know. Jingle Chunchui looked at Yizan in shock, and said with emotion, Is there any truth to what you said? But running away seems more suspicious. Yukitake Shuru said lightly, Since the person has already run away, it's too late to say anything else, so let's do it. That's it. Jingle Chunchui asked suspiciously, How is that? Go back and sort out the information. Shiro Yukitake glanced at him with contempt in his eyes. The suspects have all fled, so these three are the only ones left. I've already asked what I can ask, so why are they left behind? No. Jingle Chunchui's eyes swept over Urahara Kazuki, holding Ling Tejai, and Siphon Yuan Yaiki. Just let them stay like this. Are you not afraid of them running away? I have to run early, why wait for you to come? Yizan turned to Byakugan. I didn't run before, and there is no need to run in the future. It also makes sense. Urahara Kazuki nodded. We won't run away. Aren't we afraid that we will turn around and bring someone to arrest you? I won't have to wait until now to get caught. Urahara Kazuki said with a smile. Master Yi. Broken Bee looked at Siphon Yuan Yi. You can go back with me. No. Siphon Yuan Yi turned over neatly and turned his back to Broken Bee. Do you really like this kid? Shattered Bee pointed at Kazuki Urahara. He's not good looking, he's still poor, he used to be a captain, but now he's not even a captain anymore, he's just a junkie, so what is he good for? Hey, Broken Bee, why am I selling junk? Urahara Kazuki frowned. I didn't say that you would take the junk, so you can be content. Yizan comforted indifferently. Even if you have to find one. Broken Bee looked back and forth between Yizan, Jingle Chunchui and Yukitake Shuru. Even if you have to choose one, how can Captain Yizan be better than this guy? Yo, does this count as affirmation for me? Yizan glanced at Jingle Chunchui and Yukitake Shuru. It means that I am better than you two. It's called being the taller man in the dwarf, don't be narcissistic. Broken Bee ruined him, and continued to look at Siphon Yuan Yi. Zan touched his nose in Jingle Chunchui's mocking eyes. What are you laughing at? With all due respect, no matter what, at least in the eyes of the Broken Bees, I am better than you. Chapter 179 _ It's a tune. Play. After all, I'm old. I think I was still young and I was still a piece of grass in Junyang. At that time, the girls who chased me would be able to line up from one end of Liuhun Street to the other. Jingle Chunshui said with emotion. I didn't expect that. Has reached the age to be ignored by the little girls. Bragging is a bad behavior. Yizan faintly. Yeah, just like you, don't you think? Saifeng Yuan Yi sat upright, although he still looked like a cat, but after sitting upright, he still had a bit of momentum, but if he said it, then Yizan was confused. Broken Bee, do you know that Yizan is the most philandering man in the Soul Society? Eldest sister Yi, is it appropriate for you to slander me like this in front of sister Broken Bee? Yizan interrupted her dissatisfiedly. You can't bear the title of number one philandering man, but you the title of the first heartless woman is well deserved. Quote. Saifeng Yuan raised her eyebrows at night. When did you entrust me with your boyish heart? If you don't tell me sooner that my sister will treat you better. Don't be narcissistic, what I'm talking about is the fact that you abandoned sister Broken Bee, made her cry in pain, used alcohol to relieve her worries, and sought revenge from me. Yizan said angrily, and then his eyes flashed. Meow. The harsh and shrill cat meowing made everyone present shudder, and then, seeing Yizan grabbing the black cat, everyone shuddered again. Even Saifeng Yuan Yi's loyal guard, Broken Bee, was unable to react to what was happening in front of him. It's so cruel. Jingle Chunshui turned his head away, not looking at any indecent scenes. So it's really female. Yizan flipped the black cat's tail, sighing and shaking his head. What responded to him was a cat scratch, and then with a bang, He Miao turned into Saifeng Yuan Yi with an angry face. Stinky boy, are you tired of living? Saifeng Yuan's sour hand and that person who had concentrated spiritual power were very likely to kill Yizan. In fact, she didn't release water either. See. A crackling sound rang beside Yizan's head. Rao is because he has experienced hundreds of battles, and he feels that he will never lose, which will also make his back chill. This fuck, if it wasn't for Lao Su's hurry to hide just now, with his head still on his neck. Eldest sister Yi, are you trying to kill someone? Yi Xuanchang blinked at the Saifeng courtyard. I just glanced at it, and I didn't do anything. I'm not interested in humans and beasts. What responded to him was Saifeng Yuan Yi's increasingly swift attack. They all escaped. Guling Taijai looked at the scene in front of him in surprise. Did you release the water at night? You've been stripped of your pants, you're going to release water to that person. Urahara Kazuki turned over the Byakugan at him, and then watched in distress as it became more and more tattered under Saifeng Yuan Yi's attack and Yizan's dodging. The floor. Do we still have money? Urahara Kazuki asked earnestly. Money for reflooring. Business has not been good recently, said Wuling Taijai, it's a bit difficult. Urahara Kazuki sighed, but he had no choice but to watch them fight. Finally, with a loud noise, Saifeng Yuan pierced through the wall at night, and Yizan took the opportunity to run out. Although the wall collapsed, Urahara Kazuki was really relieved. If they let their sons go down in the house should be scrapped. He looked at the hole in the floor that Yi had smashed, and with a shake of his hand, the cup fell. There is no echo for a long time. It's more than not releasing water, it's just an explosion of strength. He looked at the large and small pits on the ground resentfully, and turned to look at Shuru Shuru and Jingle Chunshui. Is this money coming from Jingling Court? Jingle Chunshui looked left and right, looked up and down, but didn't look at Urahara Kazuki. This. I'll go outside and have a look, I must not let them affect the living residents. Captain Floating Bamboo. If you want Jing tomorrow to make compensation, you need to go to Jingling Court to submit a report in person. The former captain of Urahara should be familiar with the process, so I don't need to repeat it, right? Shuru Yukataki said mildly, I have to go to the captain for approval. Does this count as exile without human rights? Urahara Kazuki was shrouded in darkness. Jinglingting has a lot of food, so we do things according to the procedures. Shiro Yukataki replied very officially, or you can directly ask Yizan for compensation. It's not that I don't know about that kid's empty pockets. Kazuki Urahara sighed and could only admit that he was unlucky. Yizan, you stinky brat, stop for me. Siphon Yuan Yi was wrapped in spiritual power, and he was chasing after Yizan, but Yizan was just a little faster than her, and he couldn't catch up no matter how hard he chased him. Do I look like such a stupid person? I'll stop if you tell me to stop. Yizan turned around and gave her a drunk face. Sister, you've been chasing for so long, aren't you tired? You stop and let me beat you up, and I won't chase you. Siphon Yuan sneered at night. 62 Binding Dao. 100-step railing. Yizan dodged the lavender light Jinchuriki column that fell from the sky in a thrilling manner. Anyway, I still have to go back to the Urahara store in the end. You really don't need to chase me at all. Then stop. Siphon Yuan Yi sneered. But as soon as you chase me, I want to run, and I can't stop. The 63rd way of binding, the rope is bound. Siphon Yuan Yi manipulated the huge iron chain to roll towards Yizan. I'm going, eldest sister, are you trying to kill someone? Yizan glanced at the huge iron chain behind him, and ran even more happily. Isn't it just a glance at you? That's a cat, I'm not a pervert. Is your behavior different from pervert? The more Yizan defended, the more fiery Siphon Yuan Yi became. The huge chains were as flexible as snakes under his manipulation. However, he just couldn't catch Yizan. Of course there is a difference. I didn't peek at you taking a bath. I picked up a cat on the road and picked it up to see if it was a male or a female. Isn't that normal? Yizan stopped on a roof, and as needed he teased Siphon Yuan Yi with words. If you want to blame it, blame yourself for making a man's voice. I'm just curious that you are a man and a woman, a male cat and a female cat. Chapter 180-Strong Knight. What responded to Yizan was a merciless double lotus fire pendant. I've seen a lot of people who don't need to clean up, like you who need to clean up. Siphon Yuan Yi was half said, and the whole person was stunned. She looked down at the hand wrapped around her waist, and her whole body was not well. I didn't want to use this trick at first, I just taught you a lesson. Yi said, a strange color appeared in his amber pupils, but you're a kid, so you can't blame me. She took off her jacket and threw it aside. Inside was a black short sleeve. The highly compressed ghost path erupted from the back and shoulders of Sefenjin Yaiki. The clothes in these two positions were torn by the outburst of ghosts. After entering the smooth mode, Yi's every move has huge destructive power. Instant coax. Yizan showed a slightly surprised look on his face. I didn't expect Big Sister Yi to think so highly of me, and she even used it. You actually know the name of this trick. Siphon Yuan Yi showed a more surprised look than Yizan. Of course I do. Yizan said of course, I don't know you well enough, how could I dare to tease you easily? Night 1. Flirting. How dare this guy admit that he is teasing me? Yi's movements slowed down for a while, and his already dark face suddenly turned even darker. Under the light from the burst of spiritual energy, it was even more like a ghost, or the kind of revenge. Yizan turned his head away from Siphon Yuan Yi's punch, and sighed slightly in his heart. Yi sang, you asked Shishalang to call my brother-in-law. My brother-in-law has done it. It's really nothing to take a look at, right? Saying that, Yizan rushed over at a very fast speed, and wrapped his arms around Siphon Yuan Yi's waist. Siphon Yuan Yi's shoulders and back were covered with highly concentrated ghosts, and ordinary people couldn't get close at all. But, is Yizan an ordinary person? Of course not. He compresses his spiritual power to cover the surface of his body, easily offsetting the ghosts covered by Siphon Yuan Yi's momentary open state, as well as the powerful force released by her gestures. This is of course feasible in theory. It is a principle to kill ghosts, but the requirements for spiritual power are higher. But because the requirements for spiritual power are too high, ordinary people can't do it here. After all, not everyone can maintain a huge output of spiritual power for a long time. No one would spend so much spiritual power to sit on such a thing. With so much spiritual power, it is better to have a few more ghosts than such a purposeless stalemate. Saifeng Yuan Yi didn't know this. She only knew that she was clearly in a state of instant coaxing, and her back and shoulders would be wrapped by a high concentration of compressed ghosts. And what is this now? Yizan is actually sticking to his back. Eldest sister Yi, in fact, I have something strange, can you explain it to me? Yizan said, you became a cat without clothes, so why did you become a human? I clearly remember that Saifeng Yuan Yaiki was naked when he turned back into human form in front of Kurosaki Ichigo, so I put it in front of me. Is this discriminatory treatment? Unhappy. I feel bad. It doesn't matter to others, but, will I easily let you, a pervert, see it? Yi sneered, there are many ways to get dressed in an instant. What do you mean by, other people don't care? Does it matter to others except me? The elder sister Yi discriminated against me for not thinking about the past, and felt a little sad. Yizan said with a sigh, our relationship should not only be our indifference, right? Or, Sister Yi, do you actually think differently about me? So you are usually very carefree, and you will be embarrassed when you meet me. What responded to him was a horizontal kick from Saifeng Yuan Yi, which didn't hit him, but broke a big tree beside him. Looking at the big tree that was smoking white smoke, Yizan shook his head, look at you, if you are angry, you will be angry, if you do it, you will do it. How innocent is that tree? If you treat it like this, it will cry. It's so well said, don't hide if you have the ability. Saifeng Yuan sneered at night, if you hadn't avoided, that innocent tree would have been hit. Well, my life is worth a little more than a tree, right? Yizan said while dodging Saifeng Yuan Yi's attack. Yi Yishan's name was not just blowing, nothing else. That said, it's really, really fast. Quick, hard, accurate. The answer that turned his head away from Saifeng Yuan Yi was a punch with a ghost. Yizan had a further understanding of the strength of Saifeng Yuan Yi. Very strong, at least the one that needs to be treated with caution. One type. Although he seemed to dodge Saifeng Yuan Yi's attack with ease, and even wiped a handful of oil from time to time, his spiritual power was being consumed at a terrifying speed. If it weren't for the fact that he had 5 times the captain's spiritual power, I would be embarrassed now. What are they doing? Are you flirting in front of a lonely man like me? Jingle Chunshui helped his hat, and his dissatisfaction was already written on his face. I didn't expect it to happen overnight. Was molested by this kid. Bumblebee, who had been nervously watching the two fighting, even pursed her lips. This is the first time she has seen Saifeng Yuan Yi's battle mode. It should be said that this is the first time she has seen Saifeng Yuan Yi fighting seriously. Compared with the strength she has shown now, what she showed when training herself in the past is really only a little bit. I thought I saw all of her, but it turned out to be just the tip of the iceberg. Broken Bee bit her lip. When she was in the Soul realm, she still had the idea that she must defeat the Saifeng Yuan Yi, defeat her, and take her back to the Soul realm. Know how naive you are. Just based on the strength that Saifeng Yuan Yi is showing now, this is not something he can match. Captain Broken Bee is still young, and there are still many opportunities to become stronger in the future. Jingle Chunshui comforted him.